Warning, this podcast contains scenes of explicit nonsense and lore.
Previously on the Resident Evil podcast.
And we could delay this and put it out in the actual year if they wanted to, and no one probably would have batted an eyelid if they'd moved it to March.
Bites her head off completely, and then starts playing with Grace's arms like a little doll.
What if Kevin is the guy that turns up as the second character that goes in guns blazing?
We don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know what's going to happen. We're going to open that door.
RE2 Chris Redfield.
Mm.
He looks so cool. He's so green.
The Resident Evil Podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 107 of the Resident Evil Podcast. More coordinated than a missile strike on a zombie-infested city, and when we go our separate ways, it will be in a blaze of glory. I'm Nick, better known as Neptune. Let's see who's joining us today. The only reason he has taken this podcast is to get closer to his own objectives. It's the Batman.
Good evening.
He's our shining star in the sky, or is that just the Raccoon City bomb? It's STARS TyranT.
Hello there.
It's not him, but it is his plaga-infested cousin. It's Romby.
Yeah, they all.
He's teamed up with a Chamberlain to bring in his time. It's George Trevor.
Good evening.
Coming up in today's podcast, believe it or not, folks, it's been 20 years since Separate Ways first graced the PlayStation 2 as a nice shining apology, and here, have this to compensate for the poorer quality port of Resident Evil 4 versus the GameCube version. Yes, it's Ada up front and centre in Separate Ways. To many, the addition, not the DLC, that quote-unquote saved Resident Evil 4. We have replayed the title beginning to end and will be bringing you our tales of woe. We'll also be catching up with all the latest news and ending with another edition of Neptune's Biohazard quiz. So let's start with the news. Resident Evil 9 Requiem news. It continues to be shown apace by Capcom, and since our last podcast we have learnt that the game is coming to Nintendo Switch 2. On release day, which is quite exciting. A new trailer was dropped as part of a Nintendo Direct and showing a little bit more grace, including the baddie and his voice. We don't know who he is yet. And we get, of course, I'm sure is delighted to see this, we get an Umbrella logo drop. We have a minor synopsis of the lockdown of Raccoon City, which we'll get to as well. But anyone excited about a little bit more information, a little bit more visuals, and of course a Switch 2 release?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be a Resident Evil trailer without another Umbrella logo to tease us for the next few months, and it to amount to being absolutely nothing in the final game at all. So, it's good times.
I kind of expect Umbrella logos considering, Raccoon City, so...
Yes, I suppose a little bit more contextually appropriate than the Village.
To be fair, the developers have come out and said, haven't they, that the story is all about the original Umbrella. So this, if you count 7 and 8 as kind of soft reboots, both in terms of gameplay and story, this is probably the first proper story sequel we've had since Revelations 2. And it was good that they confirmed that hooded guy as a new character so we can dispense with all the stupid Wesker, Spencer, Brandon Bailey theories over the next several months.
Can we? Can we though? Who knows? It did look good on the Switch too. I was impressed. There's some back-to-backs you've seen, and you let's not beat around the bush. You can see some visual differences, but not a lot. I have to say, I was mightily impressed with what the Switch could do.
Yeah, Alex O'Neill has actually played it. He was at TGS and says it plays fantastically well.
Was that handheld or?
I think it was handheld.
That's impressive then.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to what they showed at TGS and things like that, I am getting a bit tired of the demo now.
We've not even played it.
I feel like when a lot of the content creators got to play it before Gamescom, they were allowed to put up quite an extensive write-up of what they played, and that pretty much told us everything we knew. And then since then, it's just basically been seeing what they've played. And I don't know, I just get the feeling like this demo isn't representational of the rest of the game. It to me, this just feels like a small section similar to like the VHS tape you could play of Mia in Resident Evil 7. A very small section that is very different from the main game. And I don't know, I just think they just need to just give us a pinch more now, because everyone's getting restless. We waited so long for sequel news, and then we get it, and then they just kind of, they're not even drip feeding information, they're just regurgitating the same sort of demo over and over. And this is what's causing the restlessness in the fandom now to just demand Leon. They just want that Leon reveal. They want it yesterday, and it's like, come on, just get it over and done with so we can move on.
We're not that far away from release now, I think.
No, not really.
No, it's October by the time you're listening to this. I mean, mid-October.
I think people would just like a broad idea of what style of game it's going to be. Is it going to be a more slower burn survival horror affair like Resident Evil 7? Is it going to be a linear action game like the remake or Village? Or is it going to be like a blend of both with the 4 remake? No one knows at all what Requiem is at the minute, really. Which is good, I like that. I like that air of mystery to it. But I can feel the restlessness in the fandom now. I think they want more.
Do you have concerns about this antagonist? I may have had my fingers burnt with Mother Miranda, but the brief dialogue that we did get, I worry that it's just going to be like another fantastical, maniacal plan that is just so preposterous and no different to what we've had before. I know, we joke obviously that we don't want to see a return west, but it would be nice if the series could just lay down some roots and we could have an antagonist that perhaps does span a trilogy, or at least something with some character growth, But just from what I saw, it all feels a little bit just tired and samey and repetitive. And what's going to mark this crazy, insane antagonist with this obsession with Alyssa, or her daughter? What's going to mark it any different than what we've had in the past?
To be fair, I don't think this hooded figure is going to be the main antagonist. I think he's going to have more of a Lady D type role. Not necessarily a stalker enemy, but I think Capcom are putting down a few red herrings, and he's probably just going to have a sort of Jack Baker, Lady Dimitrescu role in the game. I'd be very surprised if he's the main bad guy.
Most of this seems to be at the very beginning. I think Capcom have said what we've seen so far is very early on in the game. So those concerns, I think, are valid in terms of wanting to see what the main gameplay loop is going to be like. Rob?
That's good timing, Nick. I was about to say, did anyone see the comments in regards to the boss battles and combat kind of concepts of puzzles being involved? So rather than just being a shoot 'em up, they're kind of trying to go back to that old school style of like exploring a closed space and using obstacles to overcome enemies, using your wits and kind of the spatial environments, boss battles that also involve environments and stuff. They're trying to, which is good. Like, it's that idea again that someone who's not particularly overpowered, Grace is quite weak, eventually comes to use her brains more than brawn at times to kind of impact her enemies, which I think is a good step for combat, because we haven't seen that for a while. It's mostly just been a lot of shooting and less about like environment and so forth in recent games. So, yeah.
And we got a bit of a synopsis, didn't we, John, about the reason why we're going back, seemingly looking to find the truth of Raccoon City. I'm pretty sure it's been revealed a few times in the canon so far, but there's always more that can be uncovered.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll be very interesting. It's just frustrating in a sense that we're 15 years or 16 years down the road from Resident Evil 5, and the story hasn't really moved forward since then. We've just sort of been going sideways. Resident Evil 3 started this whole thing with the US government and Umbrella, and it was intriguing back then, and then we sort of got teased that it might get expanded on in Resident Evil 6, and it didn't really. And if the rumours are true that this is going to be the last game story-wise to tie up all the RE2 plot lines, I'm just not sure how they're going to do it. But at the same time, after Village and RE7, which was largely self-contained, it does feel nice to sort of explore some of these old storylines again. So I am intrigued to see where it goes for sure. But obviously the elephant in the room is the current state of the city and how it's basically still standing when previous games have told us otherwise. So it wouldn't surprise me if they come out with some sort of plot point that there's been a big cover-up in terms of just how much the city was destroyed.
Okay.
So, publicly they might have said, yeah, it was completely obliterated, and that's what the wider world thinks because it was all sealed off and nobody can get inside. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do something like that to try and explain it.
And that's really interesting because I think the TGS stuff that was on the wall basically alluded to the idea that obviously there's all these essentially like victims of Raccoon City that were like, friends, family of people that disappeared, and they never got answers on what exactly happened to their exact loved ones, which is a good narrative. It's a true narrative that exists in the real world. So somebody has a mining disaster or a caving accident or something like that, and there's always these family members who are like, I want the truth. I want my family member's body back so that I can bury them properly, all that sort of stuff, which is very good. I think it's a good angle to go from if they've not really been fully transparent.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It ties in well as well to a reporter like Alyssa, who survived, who sort of keeps digging into like the truth of what actually happened and who's covering it up, and especially considering she may have some first-hand knowledge, it's a really good angle too.
Yeah, it's intriguing.
Other Switch 2 news, Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village are also coming out on Switch 2 on the same day of release as Requiem. I'm not sure how popular they'll be on the day of release, but they're going to be there on the console.
Ridiculous, really. I just don't understand why they're not just like release like 7 a couple of months before, Village 1 month before, and then everyone who has a Switch has time to play them.
Yes.
Before jumping into Requiem. It just feels like such an own goal. Like you say, Nick, who is going to be playing it? Who's going to go, I've got my brand new game, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a replay of 7.
Even a week beforehand would be something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's positive news, though. I mean, the cloud versions, they're ambitious, but they didn't really work terrifically well. And with the Switch 2 sort of power upgrade, a lot of the previous Resident Evil games now work very, very well on the Switch. So the Switch 2 is getting to be a very good platform if you want portable RE games.
The question will be, Sean, 1, will these be on the cartridge, or will they be those game key cards? And 2, will they have all the DLC on the said cartridge? Which would be, therefore, if you want to have Not a Hero, this could be the only way to get it.
Yeah.
I hope not for my wallet, because I don't want to buy a Switch 2. Survival unit news. Yes, very exciting. Additional gameplay has now been shown on YouTube because virtually it has been released in some territories, or at least a lot of it has been released, and so you can, if you are so inclined, watch a near complete playthrough of the game working on mobile. Can we start with some positives? Because Sean, I know you're not the biggest mobile gaming fan, but I think you were slightly impressed by some element of it.
Hey?
I think you were.
The artwork, maybe, and even then I'm not entirely unconvinced it's AI.
No, it looks... I don't know if everyone else thought that, but the actual exploration bit...
Nick, let's caveat this. The exploration bit amounts to about 2 small 15-minute sections.
I know, and that's...
And then the rest of the hours you will play is a fucking base builder turn-based combat thing.
I know.
With gacha mechanics and everything like that. The thing that they're using to market it's a lot like those fucking mobile ads you see on like Instagram and things, where they advertise a very addictive looking sort of game, and then when you actually get it, it's a base builder. And that's like a small mini game.
Yeah.
That's basically what they've done with Survival Unit. The thing that looks like an RE game. And people actually in our Discord have said, that bit's actually pretty cool, but it only lasts about 15 minutes.
Yep. And it does look pretty cool, and it just shows you, it's almost like a tentative glimpse of a potential classic Resident Evil with kind of fixed camera angles, working with modern graphics, even if it is on like a mobile. You're like, oh, that looks cool. Instantly, you're like, I want to play a whole game of that if I could.
Fucking hell, Nick, honestly.
Wouldn't you want to? Just cheap develop on the phone.
What astounds me is just how quick the mobile hooks get into you, honestly.
That's the only bit I like, though. Everything else looked atrocious.
So if Requiem and Survival Unit come out on the same day, what will you honestly play first? Be honest.
It'll be Requiem. Yeah, of course it would. Of course it would.
It didn't go unnoticed, Nicholas, that you got the Survival Unit entries on the website up in like mere hours after it's revealed. And yet it put some poor Requiem entries, took a few weeks, didn't they?
I don't know. Everything else looks, as you say, Sean, quite tedious, I think, in terms of that base building element. You're in some kind of mansion, and then randomly people come and help you, and Jill's there with her finger blasting everything.
Pardon?
She does, yeah. No, she comes in with a finger from Remake 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a fever dream. I think I saw Leon with the rocket launcher fighting
Yep.
Lisa Trevor somewhere.
Yeah, Lisa's like one of the final bosses.
Isn't there like a flying vampire thing? Like a new enemy or something?
I haven't seen Mortem yet.
Who?
Mortem, that's his name.
How come you know that, but you don't know... Fucking hell, Nick.
I'm on the ball, mate. I'm on the ball.
90% of your streams next year are going to be this bloody mobile game, isn't it?
Oh dear. Hopefully they get the point with Survival Unit that people want to see the old school RE in a newer game.
That's not what they're going to get from that, Nick.
I know. Additional news, Resident Evil 2 Deadshot is no more. No, it's now back as Resident Evil 2 Arcade. Yes. Unfortunately, the Deadshot name has quickly been removed, but we have some additional information. It's coming to American arcades in test locations this winter and in Japan in spring 2026. No UK or Europe PAL area update to bring. I assume it's going to come soon because it has been tested in the UK, but that was only, I think, at an actual manufacturer's base or wherever it was when the news first dropped. But every time I go to the arcades, I'm keeping an eye out. I prefer the Deadshot name.
So do I.
I didn't know that, Nick, to be honest.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, it's just Resident Evil 2 Arcade now.
Yeah, simplifying it so it's going on there.
I do wonder if it will come to home consoles.
No, I don't think so. There's not many games like that these days that do, compared to back in the day. There's a whole bunch of, there's like a Tomb Raider one, and there's a bunch of other ones that are kind of like these arcade versions where they use console or PC version assets to drive materials and then have an arcade-based experience around it, and hardly ever see them get ported back out of the arcades at all these days.
Would be neat if it came to something like PSVR 2, though.
Yeah. It would. That's the thing. I would, if this was the case, I'd expect more of these things to have come to the VR platforms. A lot of them are like screen space, kind of first-person adventure kind of games.
Final bit of news has just dropped today. Breaking news, I could even say. Casting news for the Resident Evil movie by Zach Cregger. This is from the Hollywood Reporter, and that's usually very credible, certainly in the world of Star Wars. When they announce something, it's usually very accurate. So Zach Cherry from Severance, Callie Reese from True Detective, and John O. Wilson from That I Love You. I'm afraid I don't know any of these people, but I'm reliably informed they're quite famous.
Zach Cherry is fantastic in Severance, but he's a very comedic actor. His previous roles have been quite similar.
Right.
So I don't know how he's going to fit into the movie, but yeah, no, just thinking of Severance, I wish I could kind of sever all my memories of Resident Evil post RE4, but that's another story.
The movie's being led still by Austin Abrams,
Yeah.
who I believe was in Weapons.
He was, yeah, he was really good in that. There was an announcement 2 weeks ago as well that Paul Waterhauser is also joining the cast. He's mostly also comedic. He was in the recent Naked Gun movie. He's been in Cobra Kai and a bunch of other stuff as well. And he was in that Clint Eastwood movie a few years ago where he was the main actor in it. Yeah, he's pretty good, but he's quite often known for comedy, so I'm expecting again that he'll be playing a slightly comedic character with,
I mean, release date's still on course for like late September 2026. I assume they're going to be very close to filming.
They're shooting in Prague, I think is what I remember reading, pretty soon. I think it's later this month. Yeah, just double checking. Yeah, filming, later October, Prague starting.
So we could be looking at maybe next March, that first trailer, just as Resident Evil turns 30, maybe?
Possibly. It's a little tease. But yeah.
That does conclude all the news. A quick shout out to our new Patreon, Liam Matthews. Thank you very much for joining us. If anyone's interested in our Patreon, you can head over to Patreon itself or the website. There's a link on the community tab to see the joys of Patreon. So we now turn our attention, because it is 20 glorious years of Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways.
Resident Evil 4.
There are some things in the world better off not knowing. This is one of them. Luis Serra. I thought I was high maintenance.
He's a survivor of Raccoon City.
He has no idea what's going on. He's nothing we need to worry about.
Ashley, you stay here.
I don't always play by your rules.
Welcome, one and all. We've been replaying Separate Ways. We thought that the Resident Evil 4 Happy Birthday Resident Evil 4 podcast was so long that we wouldn't have time to do Separate Ways as part of that podcast. We felt, considering its importance generally in the series, as I said in the kind of introduction to the podcast, the kind of quote unquote, it saved Resident Evil 4, which was the narrative very much at the time, if you were there. It deserved its own podcast. It deserved its own special Happy Birthday Renaissance. So that's what we've been doing. We've been, as I said, digging out our old copies and, seeing how we get on. And I will say from the outset, this is only the second time I've ever played the game beginning to end. So I'd forgotten the vast majority of the game. So it was quite a pleasant experience to go back and not actually know exactly what was going to happen next. I'd always recommend that with games, especially Resident Evil. If you forget all the jump scare moments, it's like reliving it over and over again. So let's go through the panel, see which version everyone played, what copy, what setup. I'm going to start this time because people for the last Resident Evil podcast, will know that I played the Wii version that time, and it took me ages to get to grips with the controller again. And I've spoken about my old age issues when it comes to the Wii remote. And interestingly, when we posted that podcast and it went on YouTube, there was a comment on YouTube, I think someone called Dan, so a big shout out to him, who said this, and I did not know this was a thing. You can play Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition with the GameCube controller. Right, so what you do, you load it all up normally, and then when you get to the main title screen, you just unplug the nunchuck, and then just hit, and in my case, I had a GameCube WaveBird, and it just instantly recognises it. There is no mention of this on the box case or in the instruction manual, but you can use the GameCube controller to play Separate Ways, which I thought was quite neat. So I did this entire game in glorious 480p, but playing with the GameCube controller. So thank you to that person. And it was a vastly improved experience, in my opinion. I much preferred it than playing with the Wiimote. There were some technical aspects that I'll discuss as we go through, but apart from that, it was a wonderful experience, and I'd forgotten how great the GameCube controller is for Resident Evil 4, especially. That was my playthrough. Batman, we'll start with you. What version did you play? What was your setup here?
I just stuck with the PS4 version, which is what I used when we played the original vanilla game playthrough. So, yeah, I just loaded my save file from that and stuck with the PS4.
Romby, what about you?
Yeah, same exact version, PS4. I just want to have a caveat of a little narrative before that goes with this, because I don't know where else I'm going to mention this. So obviously the last episodes we've been talking about, we're playing Revelations 2, and I had been tinkering away with that in my own free time still, just doing some of the side stuff, because I never really played it a huge amount 10 years ago, as far as like the extra content and so forth. So I've been tinkering through that, and I tell you what, going from the gameplay mechanics of that back to Resident Evil 4's gameplay was a stark contrast. I was really shocked at how like responsively snappy the Resident Evil 4 controls are in response to like quick turning and aiming and stuff, that it felt so alien going from what is a much more slower response, yet is a similar design concept, but just, yeah, a real huge like control snap difference. And it just made me realize just really how ahead of the game the Resident Evil 4 control scheme was back in the 2000s. It took a little bit of getting re-used to, but I just forgot how responsive that original game is.
STARS TyranT, what about you?
I played on my Steelbook PS2 version on original hardware on a CRT.
Wonderful!
And it was absolutely incredible. It honestly was amazing. The most fun I've had playing Separate Ways since probably the year it came out.
Did you notice, because you played the original RE4 GameCube on CRT?
Yeah, on a CRT, yeah.
How did you find the difference between the PS2 version and the GameCube version?
Yeah, well, if people can remember back when we did the RE4 anniversary one, I commended the GameCube controller for being so intuitive to the game, and like the aiming was easy and everything like that. It's safe to say it didn't translate terribly well to the DualShock 2, unfortunately. It's a little bit more difficult. It's just not quite as responsive, but still had such a blast with it. It was wonderful. Really loved this playthrough, as we'll get into.
George, dare I ask?
Haha, Well, some more breaking news actually, because I've come to tell you that I actually quite like Resident Evil 4 because finally I've been able to play it. I'm not just the only one. There are many of us out there. This game is completely unplayable. Maybe I'm wrong, but not before this game and not after this game have we had a Resident Evil game where the camera snaps back to the center. I don't know how you guys can do it, but up to very recently, this whole game for that reason has been completely unplayable because I sold my soul a few years ago and went from consoles to PC. I've got it on PC. I use this incredible mod patch called RE4 tweaks, and you can do lots of tweaking. And the 2 tweaks I did that just completely opened up this amazing game to me for the first time since it's been released on like 1,000 different formats is I did 2 things. The camera doesn't snap back. It kind of plays like, I suppose, any of the other over-the-shoulder games, the remakes and RE5, which just completely transforms the game, but also the field of view. As I put pictures, didn't I? I was gushing of this, putting many pictures of it in our Facebook chat. I had the field of view way back, so you can almost see the entire character model of Leon right down to his shoes. So the camera's not pushed up right, close up to his back. Yeah, and so. Not that I particularly enjoy Separate Ways, and I'll come on to reasons why. But generally speaking, so I had to open up the game by playing the whole of RE4 for the first time ever. I had a thoroughly enjoyable playthrough of the game, and so yeah, I'm using PC with RE4 tweaks. And the other thing, interestingly, with the RE4 tweaks, you can get to play the Ashley sections in fixed camera mode. But I know this is about Separate Ways, but yeah.
Just to be clear, just so that people aren't thinking you're just being mean, when you were looking into this, you found that there's actually quite a lot of people that kind of suffer from that degree of motion sickness.
Yeah.
That you get from having it so close, and this is why this mod was developed. So it's not you just being like, oh no, I couldn't, it's unplayable. It's unplayable for you because of the speed that everything was moving, and this mod had been created to deal with that.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that it's not just the motion sickness. It's just, I don't know, it's just unplayable in the sense that maneuvering just becomes, I don't know, yeah, it's just so disorientating, and it just made the whole game extremely unenjoyable. And then that's how I came across RE4 tweaks, by just Googling about this problem I had and just finding so many threads about it, particularly at Steam. And yeah, that's how I was drawn to it, yeah.
Similar to what Capcom ended up doing for Resident Evil 6, because the original FOV for that was so tight. A lot of people complained on release, and it was one of the first major tweaks they did was to put a FOV slider in for the game, and it's something that they never put in any of the others, never retroactively patched in for 5 or even 4. But that for me, GT, looking at your photos, for me it's fractionally too far back because it starts to get fisheye perspective on it. But it's good that it's playable for you now. That's the more important part than the perspective switch. Yeah, that you can actually enjoy it without having to worry about like feeling uncomfortable and making it just unplayable. So good on you.
Absolutely. Right. Separate Ways. Teased, I suppose, in the main game where, you encounter Ada throughout. She gets her own little story, not Assignment Ada. This is a completely separate 5-part extravaganza of what Ada is up to whilst you are playing as Leon. So I always felt at the time it was like an expansion kind of like the zapping system that you saw in Resident Evil 2. But I think this game, Separate Ways, took it much more, I thought, immersive. I like the fact that, for example, in Chapter 1, you can hear, although you can't necessarily see, you can hear Leon's battle whilst you are exploring the same area. You never quite got that level of closeness in Resident Evil 2, but this felt like a real natural progression of what was going on. And I don't know enough about the history of Resident Evil 4. I don't know if Separate Ways was planned from the very beginning as something that was going to be released. But when it was done so well that I can forgive it if it's kind of like post-completion edition, because it's not DLC. Yeah. What did you? Is that? I don't know. I'm not sure about RE4.
Well, it's worth a bit of context here because Shinji Mikami famously said that he will cut his own head off if Resident Evil 4 made it to any other console.
Yes.
And I think before the PAL release of vanilla RE4, they'd already announced that it would be coming to PS2 with additional content.
They hadn't even released it at all before they announced the PS2 version was coming.
Was it? It hadn't even made main release then? Wow, gosh.
It undercut the fact that it was going to be a GameCube exclusive to begin with, because it's still obviously released. It's saying only on GameCube, but I'm pretty sure it was... I'll have to go double check the exact date, but that was the crazy thing about it. It was just when they announced that port thing was just, yeah.
I personally never felt it was part of the original game as intended. I think it was rushed to meet the PS2 launch.
Do you think?
To give it some incentive, to basically make us all double dip.
Mm.
Because, it does so many things. I mean, just to give the fans who maybe weren't around for the time, but like, Separate Ways almost felt like it was the beginning of an apology. For people who'd been there since the beginning, we all had to sort of watch 9 years of build-up be fired into the sun with an opening FMV, and everything that we knew and loved about the series and its heroes and its characters was all gone in the space of about 2 minutes. And then, what we were left with, this very strange plot of president's daughters and parasites and, strange pantomime villains, were not really what we were all looking for at the time. And I feel for all the advancements that, like, the original version of RE4 did, there was definitely, like, a hole left in the community of, like, what happened to our beloved storyline.
Yeah.
Because this isn't what people wanted. As good as the game was, I think we all collectively felt a little bit empty by the time we'd finished the game, because it was like, there's nothing that we loved about the previous games in this. And so Separate Ways felt like it was the first step of the big course correct that things like Umbrella Chronicles also followed up and everything like that. And so, I mean, I remember being more excited for the prospect of an Ada campaign, more so than I was playing the main game, because it felt like that's where the meat of the story was going to be, and it certainly was. I mean, Ada's campaign, as we'll go into, is arguably more important to the storyline than Leon's main campaign. It ties in more, it has more mentions of things we loved as fans. So strange times to be an RE fan.
It goes a little bit meta at that point, because it says Leon, it basically says he's a pawn in all this, and it's like, yeah, okay.
I remember when the reveal trailer dropped for this, and I was so excited because when they first announced it for the PS2, I thought, well, that's not really interesting me because I've got the base game on the GameCube. I knew this Ada campaign was coming, but I thought it's maybe just going to be an expanded assignment Ada. But when that first PS2 reveal trailer dropped, and you saw Wesker, and he was talking about Leon and how he was a survivor of Raccoon City, my excitement level just shot through the roof. I don't know if you guys can remember that original trailer, but I was just blown away by, like you say, Sean, it almost felt like they were remaking the story.
Yeah.
Retroactively putting it back in the game.
It was very much needed band-aid, if you will, for us who felt utterly dejected with the storyline.
So to answer your question, Sean, November 1st, 2004 was the announcement for the PlayStation 2. So before the game.
God.
An earlier announcement, this is the press release from 2004. An earlier announcement was made about the release of Resident Evil 4 for the Nintendo GameCube in 2001. Since then, we at Capcom have heard a lot of voices from our loyal customers over the world requesting that Resident Evil 4 be expanded to other platforms as well. These voices aided us in our decision to release Resident Evil 4 for multiple platforms. Recently, the video game industry has seen a steady growth focusing around the US as well as European markets, which is expected to grow further with the introduction of next-generation game machines as well as new portable game players. Under these environments, we have come to the conclusion after deliberating over customers' needs, market environments, and various opinions from stakeholders such as shareholders and investors, we hope that this decision will create new demand and expand the Resident Evil fan base. And at the same time, we expect that this decision will help bring additional revenue base. By deploying well-targeted promotions and supplying software that goes along with the various tastes of customers, we will strive to improve business results and customer satisfaction along with coping with the ever-changing business environment.
Interesting. I always found it they never went into Xbox. It's like one of the only consoles that it was never on.
Japanese platform, that's why, because in Japan they did try. Capcom were one of the few Japanese developers that actually did start supporting the Xbox back in the day. It's the reason why there was some stuff on the original Xbox console like Dino Crisis 3, but the platform never really fostered a huge growth base in Japan, so a lot of Japanese developers avoided developing for the platform. In the 360 era, Capcom also were one of the biggest supporters of the 360. Like they did Rising, obviously, and a few other titles on that really were Xbox exclusives for a long period. But again, Resident Evil just never put on there because for a large time until Resident Evil 5, really. 4 got a port, obviously, eventually, and in more recent years, they've been multi-platform from the get-go, but it's just those early days.
And just to bring the whole story full circle, in the Shinji Mikami directed God Hand, there was, I believe it was a small dog called Mikami's Head.
Yeah.
He certainly had a sense of humour, if nothing else.
So I see you've managed to arrive at the village on time.
Yes, but nobody remembered to roll out my red carpet.
The villagers there are all being controlled. They automatically attack any intruders. Ring the church bell. That should quiet them down for a while.
Let's talk Chapter 1 then, which takes place, as I mentioned earlier, in the village, whilst Leon is battling against the Dr. Salvador and other Ganados. You, as Ada, are up on the rooftops, checking out a chicken that has seemingly managed to grab the insignia key. This is your objective, to grab the chicken and try not to get killed along the way. I was staggered by its introduction, because the last Separate Ways I did play was, of course, the remake for Separate Ways, which basically has opens up with a kind of boss fight in the castle, and it's very, very different. So it was quite unique to kind of start in the village, which makes sense. You know, you're kind of mimicking Leon's journey, I suppose, following him along. But what was everyone's strategy to get the chicken?
I just ran straight for the building opposite the house where Leon runs into that triggers the chainsaw cutscene. And then I just used the shotgun to blast enough Ganado. I think once you've killed a certain amount, it triggers the little cutscene with the chicken, and then you can hook shot onto the roof. And then I just sort of sped through the opening section quite quickly, because my main issue with Separate Ways, and I appreciate it's just a side story add-on, is it's very linear. There's not much you can do in terms of exploration.
Yeah.
And Ada starts with an abundance of ammo as well, and the enemies are very generous with their drops as well in terms of extra ammunition and herbs. So compared to the main game, especially the opening village siege, Ada's opening section was a doddle in comparison.
Can you actually encounter the chainsaw Ganado, or you only hear him?
No, you can just hear him. You can see, if you run into certain areas, you can see Leon running off and the chainsaw man chasing him, but you can never actually catch up with them.
Right, like you said, I didn't particularly have any issues here. I had a quick explore around just to see what was going on, because I couldn't remember how long you do spend in the village, so I wanted to try and grab, kind of ammunition stocks. But yeah, it's not particularly difficult, the opening bit. You grab the insignia key and then head to the chapel.
The dichotomy is that obviously Ada's a lot weaker in regards to being hit, but she's way more dynamically powerful than Leon is in combat, which is this weird juxtaposition of the gameplay flow, which I really like as well. And so it makes her feel uniquely different, and even though the gameplay style isn't drastically changed, because there's a lot of easy like targeting enemies' legs, and she does a lot more. Like, not that Leon was obviously not capable of doing physical attacks, but they seem to happen more regularly with Ada. You can pretty much, kick enemies, and they have huge amounts of fly kicks and wide ranging. She does these big cartwheely kicks and stuff like that knock enemies quite severely and quite easily, which I think changes the flow of the gameplay quite into a kind of very fast pace. You come to learn that very quickly in the open area. It's quite a sensible way again to open the game, having you in that space, being surrounded.
I will say, what was the overall impression of you guys for the cutscenes quality? Because Separate Ways was famously all done with FMV. There's no in-game engine stuff. It does not look great now, unless you're playing on a CRT, and in which case it looked absolutely glorious.
No, it has not aged well on any platform. I'm assuming someone's tried to AI upscale the old videos to make them look better, but...
Yeah, they're not bad. That has been done. Yeah, they look pretty decent.
The only one I remember, and it still looked a bit garish, the one that really garish was Sadler right at the very end.
Yeah.
As he kind of turned around. I remember going, ooh! Everything else I was quite happy with. George, how did you get on with your modded part? Anything interesting happen in the village for you?
I'm afraid not particularly. I mean, it's a point that runs throughout the game for me that it's not my style of game. It's not what I particularly enjoyed when it came out, as a Resident Evil game. And so I was trying to pinpoint and focus on the parts of Separate Ways that, may be different than the main game. But obviously most of the environments are the same and the combat is very similar. Even kind of the same melee attack and the karate kicks. So I was kind of more looking forward to this relationship that we saw in Resident Evil 2, how that was going to be developed on screen in the game. And I mean, I won't go on about it now. We maybe come to it in later chapters. That I found that quite disappointing. That emotional journey and the way that Ada developed as a character in Resident Evil 2, and perhaps that I was looking to see some similar development with her relationship with Leon. But it was all those same, snide little back chat cliche remarks that Leon was making. how they completely had changed up his character. They did this. Ada seemed to suffer from the same disease. Her retorts with Wesker, even her retorts with Leon, all kind of very cold. Well, I would love to have seen some kind of meaningful dialogue.
I think the remake 4 does quite a good job actually in doing that. Although the interactions between Leon and Ada because you see them obviously in the main game, but in remake 4 especially, there's a lot more in a monologue from Ada about her mission and Leon. So yeah, no, I think that's a valid point. You make a good point about what you're looking forward to, the differences about what you're gonna, because as you said, you're kind of going over the same area. It's kind of reused environments, which is as expected. But the first big difference is when you kind of get to the church. You've gone through the chapel area, you said hello to the merchant who's happy to help you, and then you end up at the church. And that's your goal. That is your goal for Chapter 1, is to ring that bell to seemingly, distract all the Ganados to save Leon. And I'd totally forgotten that this thing was a thing. And I was like, wanted to go in. I know how to go in to do and obviously it's locked. And I was like, okay. Now what do I do? And then exploring and finding that we've got this puzzle, and not realizing that the answer to the puzzle was down the side of the church. If you're going on the boardwalks down to the area, I didn't know that was. I didn't even think that was available at this point. I thought we had the church bit, and then I don't know how in my mind I just thought that Chapter 2 was then straight afterwards, and it wasn't. And I was kind of doing the puzzle, opening up the door, because the door kind of comes in, doesn't it? It locks down. And then searching for ages, going along, scouring every outside wall, trying to wait for the button thing to say hookshot. Because I was convinced I'd be hookshotting up into the church itself. And I was getting mixed up, because I think you do that in Remake 4. And I was going, where is it? And I was like mucking around going, what am I doing? I just didn't understand what I was doing wrong. And I felt such an idiot when I realised that you could go down to the boardwalk, and there's a little bit more to go down there. But so that was my initial tale of woe. But it's an interesting puzzle. I actually thought, but before you unlock it, you had to get all the not the dots, wasn't it? You had to get all the combination, lighting up all the symbols first, didn't you?
I appreciated the little touches they did there, in the sense that you go through the puzzle and you leave it, so it's how it is when Leon gets there. So obviously, you put the green gem in, and obviously it's there when Leon gets there, and likewise when you ring the bell, you have to arrange the colours, and the Los Illuminados symbol flips to how it is when Leon gets there a bit later on. They could have quite easily ignored all that stuff, because at the end of the day, it's just a puzzle. It's not part of the story. So it was nice that they actually took the time to make sure it all fits.
Yes, agreed. Anyone else have any problems with that, or was it just me being silly?
I had a pretty good recollection of what to do, so it wasn't too bad.
What about with Bella's sister? Because she's the kind of, I'll say sub boss, or a generous term, but she's the one waiting for you at the bottom of the boardwalks.
One grenade, just loads of headshots with a pistol. She was dead in seconds. Ada's starting pistol's quite overpowered, really.
It's a good one.
I just let her follow me up the ramp, and then I jumped over the first gap, and then as soon as she jumps after you, just one pistol shot will knock her off.
Oh really? Oh no.
Yeah, so you can save a bit of ammo that way.
Nick's literally squeezing the desk at how easy we've got these strategies down.
I know. I honestly, this will be the theme of the evening, I'm afraid. Rob, no problems?
Generally speaking, it's a pretty straightforward combat, and it's such a wide open area leading up to the church that you kind of, again, the ease of like leading you into this. If you've gotten used to the gameplay again, then you'll be fine. My issue inherently was more to do with the puzzle leading into the church itself, where I forgot how many times you've got to need to rotate that damn puzzle wheel thing.
Oh, because of the graveyard thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the light for the thing at the back of the church. Yeah, just had forgotten. And that led me to some problems while I was sitting there going around in circles for a while until I figured it out. But after that, it's pretty straightforward again. It's a bit more combat leading into the church and eventually ringing the bell. So, yeah.
George, into the church, no worries?
Yeah, fine. It's interesting because I remember at the time, a lot of us were complaining how easy the puzzles were compared to, the traditional ones we were used to in previous games. But I think it's still a lot of where the series is kind of currently, because going back and playing through, I quite enjoyed, some of these puzzles. I thought they struck quite a good balance. They felt actually slightly more, challenging, really, than anything we've had recently with sort of Village and Seven. So, yeah, it's interesting. I was actually quite enjoying the puzzles this time around. Where I remember back in the day complaining that they were far too easy.
It's a bit disconcerting when you go in the church and it's for some reason it's playing the Del Lago boss music.
Oh, really? I didn't twig that that's what it was.
It's just a bit of a weird fit.
I like the fact that once you've done the puzzle, you can climb up, you can hear Ashley kind of weeping or cowering in the room, which I thought was a nice little easy touch to make. It was obvious it was going to happen, but I thought that's nice. That knowing that she's there, and you feel that the world's a little bit more fleshed out in that sense. Yeah, I would say with the other puzzles, I had to go back to the graveyard a few times just to try and psychologically go, right, it's the C shape, the W shape, or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was. And then go back, and that's nice.
It's interesting as well playing through it. Comparing and contrasting with the story elements that Remake 4 changed. Because when I was inspecting the graveyard to remember the right way to turn the dials for the puzzle round the back, a lot of the gravestones were Los Illuminados members, and it just made me sort of think just how the different games had changed the backstory, because in the original RE4 the Los Illuminados had been around the village for centuries, and Mendez was actually a lifelong practitioner of the religion, whereas obviously in Remake 4 they changed that completely and had Mendez just be completely innocent and actually quite a good man and a sympathetic character that was, manipulated a bit like Salazar was. So I just thought that was, going back to the original, I just thought that was an interesting change.
Somewhat controversially, as we're going to get through, one of the things I liked the most about this playthrough was how much I think I prefer the story beats of this over the remake.
Really?
I do.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shocker, innit? Yeah, we'll get into it more, but
it's a lot more succinct, this, isn't it? This is very to the point, whereas Separate Ways is like it's almost like a mini game, whereas this is kind of like an add-on.
I mean, just a caveat, like, I'm not saying this is better in terms of it being like a piece of content. Like, there's no question which is the better produced chapter of gameplay and everything like that. The remake one was clearly designed from the beginning. It was always going to be, it's the, RE4 remakes DLC. But I just feel that Separate Ways in the remake take some big swings and changes, and I don't really like any of them. I don't like the fact that Wesker's present in the village. I don't like the Ada infection subplot because I don't think it adds anything at all. And so what I found through playing through Separate Ways now, the original, was that it's a much lighter, breezier experience, and all the better for it, I think. People are going to be switching this off, but
I agree, Sean. Yeah, no, I agree, Sean.
And going back to Richard Wiles' Wesker, because we haven't really talked about this, but I really love his scenes in the original version of Separate Ways. I think he plays a very suave Wesker very well. And it made me realise just how much I missed that nuanced Wesker before the sort of pantomime theatrics of DC Douglas and the snarly evil version of Craig.
Yeah,
I can't pronounce his surname, my apologies, but the remake 4 voice actor, to go back to like Richard Wiles' very eloquently well-spoken, charming almost villain was so refreshing. This was back when Wesker was a much more unique villain than I feel he is now, and I feel that the remake version of Wesker is just a bit too snarly and a bit too evil, just a bit too stereotypically evil. Whereas I think Richard Wiles' Wesker had a little bit more going on, and I really love the back and forth that his Wesker and Sally Carhill's Ada has.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's a good point.
He always felt like he was in control, very more, considered and in control and calm.
I love how frustrated he gets through the chapters as well.
Yeah.
When you realise like Ada's just fucking him over with regards to dispatching Leon, and you just get the little shots of him sort of wrapping his fingers over his console, and it just all adds layers, which I don't think the remake version has. There's nothing wrong with the remake version of Wesker. I will say this. I think it's an interesting spin on the character. But going back just made me realise how much I missed that. Absolutely.
I think that's their difference of, we haven't talked about, because I'm not even sure what the development history of the PS2 version is in regards to, when the development of that obviously started, and why it wasn't with the GameCube version. I'm pretty sure, as you assumed before, that I think it was John Sorrow that actually assumed before, was that it wasn't developed until, later. But the fact is that obviously they had to retroactively fit a narrative around it. So they went, well, let's have the bits that we have Ada in the main game and then connect them as Lily's touching points. Whereas Separate Ways in the remake doesn't have that. It's that idea of like, well, we can craft it to whatever we want. We're remaking the game, so we don't have to have it as directly tied. But I think it is somewhat narratively worse off for it because it doesn't feel light and breezy, and part of the connective tissue of just the events, it only connects very lightly where it needs to at the very end. Yeah, that's why I very much agree. And also, I said this when Separate Ways first came out in the remake, that I didn't dislike it, but I definitely did not like the fact that Wesker was on or near to the island and then on the island and right from the get-go, and this only continues to drive that point now, replaying this, that I'm like, yeah, no, I definitely prefer this slightly distant version, but the one that's getting slightly manipulated while trying to be a manipulator himself is a much more interesting character, I think.
Hell of a drinking game, though, if you took a shot every time he says sample or retrieve the sample.
I did think that all the way through. God, he loves that. And it's the way Richard Wow says it as well, isn't it? He's got this real panache for it. The sample. I can't even do it, but, it's just great.
Sample. Sample.
I mean, that is one thing that is frustrating. I mean, we're probably jumping ahead, but thanks to, like, obviously the Japanese files and things like that have come out since the game's release, it is very murky when you watch this very, basically translated version of the Japanese narrative, because all it's referred to is the sample, and you don't have anything of like the dominant or submissive plaga or anything like that. So it's a little bit difficult to understand in retrospect what the game is as such between Ada and Wesker.
It's a shame there's no files in the original Separate Ways, just to flesh things out a little bit more. Even Ada's report was mostly gibberish. I mean, Sean's right. If you read that report, it's not as clear or succinct as the likes of Wesker's report. It doesn't really make much sense. She talks a lot in riddles, if you actually listen to her speak during those reports. It's not clear the point she's trying to make.
We have an irregularity. The researcher we planted has been discovered by the Illuminados.
You must be talking about that vagrant Spaniard. So where is he now?
He's held captive in an abandoned house located northeast of the village. Until he recovers the sample, we can't let him die.
You don't need to remind me.
Right, moving on to Chapter 2. This is Village Part 2, and the objective here is to rescue Lewis. So the game starts off in the Chief's house, where you're in the bedroom where Ada has rescued you earlier on in Resident Evil 4, and kicks off basically at that point. I'm looking at my notes here, John. I wanted to refer to you this one. I don't think you liked Chapter 2 much, because I said there's lots of backtracking, and it reminded me of Code Veronica. Just because of the backtracking.
Yeah, because all this level is go from the chief's house to the other side of the farm and then back again.
Back again. It felt a little bit backtracky. So you're in the chief's house. I just ran really from this area because I wasn't entirely confident of whether I would encounter Mendez. I didn't think I did, but I thought, no, let's just get out of there as quickly as possible. What have I said here? Yeah, quite a creepy atmosphere going back to the farm area. It was very quiet. And naturally, I walked through every bear trap because I always do. I just don't see them at all. I don't know if anyone else found that.
Did anyone else spot the random Ganado in the farm with the glasses on?
With the glasses on?
Yeah, I really do not know the significance of this guy, because obviously you get the one later on wearing Leon's jacket, but there's one Ganado in the farm. I'm sure he's the only one in the entire game, and he's just got a pair of glasses on.
No.
It's really bizarre. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's a unique...
It's the policeman's glasses, I think, isn't it?
Ah, of course, yeah. Yeah, that would make sense.
Wow. Oh, that's really cool. I did not know that. Which one is he? Just...
Oh, I can't remember. When you go back to the farm, there's like 5 of them will come at you, and one of them's got glasses on. Yeah.
It's one of the bald model ones, but one of them is wearing a pair of glasses, which I just assumed was the cops.
I know, I think you're right.
Yeah, you probably are, yeah.
Before we get there, though, I've jumped a little bit ahead. First time we meet old Dr. Salvador, as you leave the chief's house. Any problems here? I was quite pleased I took him down first time. I don't know. He felt a bit slower than normal. I don't know if that was true. That could just be my perception.
Similar strategy to the Bellicist, to not punch him down with a shotgun and then just headshot him with a pistol. Because Ada fires that thing so fast, you can pretty much do him in, like, a couple of shotgun knockdowns.
I think this is why I thought it was easier. Is it just because Ada's quicker with the weaponry?
I think her weapons are slightly more powerful than Leon's because you can't upgrade them, can you? So I think her default weapons are slightly more powerful.
I mean, her shotgun's pretty weak, but it's an amazing sort of knockdown weapon. It punches massive holes through big groups, and it will always knock down Chainsaw Magini. Not Chainsaw Magini, I'm in the wrong game, aren't I? Chainsaw Ganado. Because we can't be using Salvador, can we? You know.
I will.
But yeah, I think by this point you might even have the rifle as well, which trivializes it even more.
Yeah. George, any problems when they at the beginning part in the house, Chainsaw Man?
Well, I was on Neptune mode, easy mode throughout.
There's no difficulty in this. So you could be on Neptune mode, which is always good, but there's no.
Yeah, I was on easy mode for the main game.
Yeah,
I thought it carried over, but no problems. Just shotgun dispatch, no trouble.
Yep, that's always good. Rob, what about you?
No, it was pretty straightforward for me. As it was alluded to with Ada's ability to fire pretty quickly and a good combination of weapons. There's a good clumping of enemies around the chainsaw guy outside of the house too that you can use a grenade for. So, yeah, pretty straightforward. Got a bit more tricky later on with more of the explosive enemies and stuff like that later on.
You'll pick up the egg in the oven.
The chicken inside the oven.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah. Chicken in the oven, and then
Feels like Ada's most of her first part of her campaign is just saving chicken everywhere.
I used a lot of eggs though.
They're pretty good.
They are good. Yeah. I was quite because if you just chase them around, they eventually spout eggs, don't they? Or eventually eggs appear. I was always a bit low on health personally. I know that will come as a shock to no one, but I was always hoovering up anything I could find. But yes, anyway, walk through the bear traps, and then I loathe the next part, which is what I affectionately known as the dynamite houses. I hate this part in the opening chapters of Resident Evil 4, and I always have problems with the dynamite. But I always miss one. I always think I'm being clever. Something inherently goes wrong at this point.
Surely, with the power of the GameCube controller, though, Nick, you were quick shotting the dynamite out of their hand in no time.
Right. Sean, thank you. What I'm going to do now, this is my segue into the unique problems that the GameCube controller has.
Oh, God.
I have put it later on, but I can bring it in now because it's a nice segue. I think it's not designed for the GameCube controller on the Wii version because specifically with aiming, if you aim too high, it goes out of aim mode. This is especially true on if you're using the rifle.
Okay.
This is my experience. Whether I just have a dodgy WaveBird, I don't know. But if you press the button, aim, and you're in shooting mode, and if you kind of hold the analog stick and go too high, you try and aim it higher up, it completely just goes out. It's like you've pulled your weapon away. It's really odd. So it was almost like, I think, if you were doing it in the Wii remote mode and you're holding it kind of like horizontally to the TV, it's detecting that it kind of went up and out of shot. You've gone like that, and the game goes whoa, and it goes back out of aim mode. And this happened quite a lot, I have to say, with the GameCube controller. So I don't know if it was kind of misreading a big hit on the GameCube controller analog stick as being. I don't know.
I tell you what, Nick, you missed your calling as a video game Q&A tester. Because I can guarantee, if there is a fucking thing that can find that is a weird anomaly, you will find it. You have missed your calling, sir.
I mean, it doesn't. To be fair, in the game's defense, it doesn't even say you can use the GameCube controller.
Well,
this, so it's not actively intended. It's just something I know. Everything else worked really well. It was just this bit. If you kind of move the aiming recital too quickly when doing it, and if you went, oh, quick, I need to go left, it will go out of that mode, and you're suddenly back playing. And you haven't equipped the gun. It's very odd. So there were problems in shooting very quickly the dynamite people, because if you went, oh, there's one there, on the right, and I'll quickly go left, the controller didn't quite align with that speed, because I think it was thinking that you've moved your line of sight too quickly out of the Wii's detection area. That's the best way I can describe it. And so I was blown to smithereens a few times. I didn't die at this point. The first death comes a little bit later on. But needless to say, all my health was used up by these dynamite people. Even when I thought I was being clever and I got into the house, took down one, of course I forgot there was the other one. that then just, did kamikaze on himself and just blew everyone up, taking half my health, or nearly all of it. So I still don't like Dynamite House. I don't think I've ever played through it without being either using up all my health or dying. So nothing changed. Still my most hated part of the game.
At least there's no boulder this time, eh?
No, I was expecting that. I was expecting to get that. So I'm sure all of you had no problems with the Dynamite Houses.
No, my only thing was that I was a bit murky on was exactly where the trigger point was to continue the game.
Right.
Of course, you have to actually go into the Dynamite House, into the far room.
Yes.
So Ada can peer through the gap and get the cutscene.
Yeah.
It's slightly easier in separate ways because there's no C4 either, or bear traps.
True, yeah.
So it's slightly easier than the main game. And then on the way back, I thought it was nice how you can hook shot up to the bridge. I mean, there's nothing up there. There's just a couple of barrels, but it's nice that you can go to a new area, so to speak.
Yeah.
The only one, I mean, you guys can probably help me here. The only thing I couldn't manage to do was in the farm, there is like the big barn. There's like a flashing gem on like a platform on the roof.
Yes!
And I could not work out how to get up there.
Yeah, there is a hookshot prompt, but it's not where you think it is.
Where is it?
You have to go past the barn, sort of do a 180 turn back, and come at it from the... it's hard to describe which side it is, but... say if you enter the farm from the south, let's say, you have to come at that barn from the northern side, and then you get the hookshot prompt.
Yeah, I just couldn't find it at all.
So interestingly, I always found, and I've always found this, is that once you get into the Dynamite House and you get the cutscene of Leon and Lewis getting taken away, if you look at the map, they get taken away to a very far fucking point, all the way to that canyon, basically. And I always find that separate ways at this point, this is one of those areas where I felt is a good example to say it wasn't planned from the start because of, like the way Rob said, they're trying to bolt it onto stuff that exists in the game. Because Ada's at Dynamite House, she sees him getting taken away, but then all she does is a brief jaunt back to the Chief's house, and by this point, Leon's already escaped. Now, it's crazy, really, because in that time, Leon and Lewis have been taken away, they've been dragged halfway across the village. They then obviously get knocked unconscious for a duration, get infected, they get their conversation where they break free from the chains, fight through the canyon, and then make it to the Chief's house. And for Ada, that is literally like 3 minutes. So there is a bit of... It doesn't quite line up properly, I feel, in this chapter.
Yeah, fudging it a bit, yeah.
That's a little bit true in the first chapter as well, though, isn't it? It's like,
yeah.
Leon, she leaves the village, does all that with the church, just to ring the bell, and Leon's still fighting all the Ganados in the same out. Yeah, I think it's one you just got to smile and nod.
Yeah.
And go, yep, fine. Okay, yeah. So as you said, you alluded to there, you go back and you get the cool cutscene, don't you, with Leon back in the. I say that's the first big cutscene, but of course, what's interesting is that cutscene is entirely optional in the main game, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'll never have it. I know of the scene because I think it was used in trailers and things like that. But
yeah, well, it's Ada's first appearance in the game.
But I always forget it.
Yeah, so you have the first half of it, which does always happen.
Yeah.
Which is the hallway bit, but the way that it's presented in the scene is that Leon immediately goes to the door, and that's animated so that he staggers over to the door a bit and then immediately goes into the next bit of the cutscene, which is almost played verbatim at that point.
And interestingly, he doesn't get the call from Hunnigan in between it.
In between, yeah.
There's a bit of missing content. But I must say, I love the direction in some of the separate ways cutscenes. I really love the shot that moves through the house with the two Ganados at the bottom, and then it goes, and then they see some dust falling from the ceiling.
They hear the noise, and the...
Yeah, it's wicked. Really well done.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It starts with Ada outside and then goes through the wall, goes through the Granados, like talking, and them stopping and listening to the conversation muffled in the dust. And yeah, it is really, really well directed. I could do with more of that in this franchise. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's kind of cool.
So you are then ejected, and you wake up in the gondola area in the caves where I'm guessing you're about to be executed in some kind of satanic ritual. And needless to say, this was my first death. Because A, I had completely forgotten that this was going to happen. B, that there was a cutscene.
QTE?
QTE, that's the word, thank you. QTE. And C, 3, in my defense, there was again a fault with the fact that it was a GameCube controller. Because...
Fault in air quotes, right, Nick? Fault.
Well, they weren't, because you're using the GameCube controller, the prompts as to what buttons you need to press didn't correlate with the GameCube controller. They showed the correct buttons, A and B, but they weren't red and green. So, you know what I mean? It's the Wii ones.
I bet it uses the Wii Classic controller buttons, does it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because you can use the Classic controller with RE4 Wii Edition, and I bet that's what it uses.
That's what it used, and so that I don't know what happened. Killed straight away.
Was it the GameCube controller's fault that you couldn't get into the church on Chapter 1?
Yeah, it's all the game. I'm going to blame it for everything.
You know, there is another controller that doesn't work with this game. The Resident Evil 4 Limited Edition chainsaw controller.
No, it doesn't.
Which has the buttons positioned to make it impossible to fulfill any of the QTEs.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not all of them, but it's not many of them. Yeah, depending on what button combos they are. I've watched someone trying to sprint from the boulders with the chainsaw controls. Absolutely hilarious.
It was terrible. So yeah, A and B, I got killed because I didn't see the color buttons. And then on my second go, it was L and R, which thankfully was accurate.
Doable.
Yeah, more doable. So that was my first death, ladies and gentlemen.
Nick doesn't see color, ladies and gentlemen.
No. Next area is quite nice, though, isn't it? We're in the night, kind of nighttime. We've got all the night Ganado coming out, and there's a couple of.
No, I just want to just a very quick point because I bash the game all the time, and you just mentioned the gondola area, and just replaying the main game, you know, being opened up to me now, you know, without that camera snap back to the center, I really got to enjoy some of the atmosphere just in general terms, and the area after the Del Largo. I'll just be very quick so notes about the main game, but after the Del Largo fight, and you know, you pull up in, you know, your little boat on the jetty then, and the rain and the lightning, and it's dark, and that, you know, whilst the gameplay I do really find objectionable, generally speaking, in terms of, you know, what I want from the survival horror franchise, the atmosphere at various points, you know, Sean I think mentioned it about the difference between the original and the remake. You really get that kind of almost gothic, darker feel in the original, and there are some of the locations here that are really thoroughly enjoyable in terms of the atmosphere. And yeah, just when you mentioned that where Ada pulls up in the gondola, it reminded me, you know, in the main game, that area, you know, that whole area is wonderful.
I thought it was quite a cool area again to explore, and it's all quite simple. You're looking for a key to get out of the area, so you explore, go down the stairs and whatnot. I found, I've put in my notes here, I found the TMP quite helpful in this. I've always been a big fan of the TMP in the game.
Yeah, me too in this game. Yeah,
I think it's really good. Just for, you know, if you aim them all at the legs, it gives you so much breathing space because you can mow down so many of them quickly, get them stopping running at you. And I felt this section was quite intense with the Ganados, a lot of them kind of running up the stairs. And if you weren't ready for it, I thought it was a bit overwhelming. So yeah, I found the TMP to be particularly useful to deal with the hordes. I did say that building it, that I said you needed a key to and go to a building. Was that part of that a new area?
No, that's where you fight Mendes with Leon.
What, the building area?
The barn, yeah.
Yeah, it's the barn. Yeah, the one that he ties the handles so you can't escape is the door you come in and out of.
I barely recognised it.
Well, but it's because it's on fire when you're in there with Leon.
Yeah, it's quite dark. Yeah, in this version.
Wow, I honestly I didn't even twig. Now you mention it.
It's where the chainsaw Granado or the Bella sister is again with the key. Yeah.
Our host, lifelong Resident Evil fan, doesn't recognise famous boss location from one of the most popular games.
I know, but he knows what the fucking vampire's called in the mobile game.
You know where his priorities lie. Very much lied about Requiem earlier. He's definitely playing that if it came out the same day first. We know this.
I had lots of issues in this part. I had 3 deaths after this point, I'm afraid.
Well, the fact you can't tell what the area is tells us you've got a lot of issues, but yes.
It was, yeah.
It's the controller's fault, Rob.
The controller made him blind to what the environment was. Yeah, that's probably true.
I'm just going to also add, with regards to the controller, for this bit as well, this is where I first got the rifle, and it took at least a couple of minutes to work out how to zoom, because again, when you go into first-person mode to use the zoom function, it's mapped to it says it says zooming for the Wii remote using the Z button, and there is no, or ZR or whatever it is, there is no Z button on the GameCube controller that does what the Wii remote does, because you know it's on the nunchuck, isn't it, the Z button, I think. And this is what it's telling me to do. So I was pressing the Z button, which of course doesn't do it on the GameCube controller. And I was like, which button does it? I was pressing them all, going L, R, no, that wasn't doing it, and then X, no, X and Y, no, that don't do it. And it was eventually, it was just the C stick that did it.
Yeah, which is what the mapping on the original. Yeah.
Which is mapping on the original, but it's a long time since I played it on the GameCube controller. So I was like, what? And so you weren't given that prompt, so yeah.
I just feel you could have solved this problem quite easily, Nick, if you match your controller to the console it was made for.
Yes.
But it's really all you need to do. Why don't you just play it on the GameCube?
I love the fact that before we recorded, Nick basically trash talked PC gaming for being overly complicated and difficult. You know, the good thing about consoles is you can just plug it in and it goes. And here we have Nicholas just plugging in different controllers and it fucking him over for the entire game. Genius.
It did. Yeah. I'll be quiet now. Before we get to the boss El Gigante, but anything interesting, anyone in this area?
No, not here. It was all fairly straightforward. I actually didn't remember they completely cut out the cable car ride as well, because I could have sworn Ada had her own little moment where she had to snipe shot people off towers, but it literally just skips it.
Just jumps on, jumps off.
Yeah. And you can't backtrack through the Chainsaw Sisters section, can you? You can only do the El Gigante route.
Yeah.
No, that gate's locked and she conveniently cannot hookshot over that one.
But you do fight a better sister, though.
Yeah, in the barn, yeah.
She can't hookshot over it because she's got the wrong controller, John.
Of course. Of course.
Oh dear. But again, the whole area is quite, you start where you need to exit, you need to grab the key, come back, that type of thing. All quite straightforward in that sense. El Gigante then. I mean, do you actually have to fight it?
No, I just kited him out of the way, ran past him and went through the door.
I thought, yeah, because I exited and I thought, but I wasn't sure if you actually had to or not.
I actually don't know what the reward is, though. I presume there is a decent reward if you kill him. In fact, do you actually get the treasure item that you need to plug the certain gems into? Because I never got one. I had the gems, but never got the... Is it the Stein or something?
There's a mask early on that I picked up that has the gems. Oh.
Beerstein, there's one I missed because I had all the cat's eyes.
Yeah, same. But I wonder if it comes from El Gigante then.
No, I think it's just money. Because I did kill him, but it was something quite disappointing.
I think it's 15,000 or something like that. But no, you're right, because I thought I was saving all the cat's eyes, and you see the cat thing, don't you, in the dock level? I thought, finally, I'll be able to combine them all. But oddly, the cat's eyes don't go in the cat, which I found strange.
Did any of you guys find the Stein? Because I never could. I didn't buy any of the treasure maps, though, to be fair, so...
The Beerstein thing, what did I get?
Is that not in the farm, where you have to jump down into that little secret pit and then push the thing out the way? I can't remember.
Don't think so, because I'm pretty sure I did that, and I still had the cat's eyes, not able to plug into anything.
No, I had nothing for the cat's eyes in the end.
But that trail where you fight El Gigante, just to go back to the point of whether Separate Ways was a brand new thing or whether it was originally planned, there's sections you can hookshot up onto, like wooden platforms, and those platforms are there in Leon's game with barrels on, and obviously he cannot get to them.
Ah.
And the cutscene with Lewis as well, it always struck me as strange in the sense that, Jack Krauser and Sadler don't have any additional dialogue, but Lewis Sarah has a couple of sentences here, and would they really rehire that same voice actor? So part of me wonders if, yes, Separate Ways was planned to be a new thing for the PS2, but they made McCartney cut content from the original to sort of implement into it. Because that cutscene with Lewis in Separate Ways, that same scene in Remake is actually part of Leon's game.
Yeah.
It could be a case where it wasn't forced to cut content, but it was stuff that they kind of trimmed back when they were fixing the narrative, and then realised that it would make good use of for this when they started to expand it too. It could have gone that way as well.
Yeah, because that's the one cutscene in all of Separate Ways where I thought that would, that seems a natural fit for the base game.
I'm not convinced that they brought the actors back to record any extra major dialogue except for the main characters for Separate Ways, because they definitely didn't record any more Ganado lines. They're all the originals, including the fact that some of them refer to Ada as a male, which is quite funny.
Yeah, no, I agree, which is why I think this cutscene with Lewis when he comes out of the cabin was meant to be part of the vanilla game. But that's just my theory.
No, it could be.
I'm just looking up what you get for the El Gigante. Yeah, it's 10,000 pesetas. Yes, no, it's gold bars.
Luis has succeeded in recovering the sample. He's waiting in the castle. Get in contact with him ASAP.
Understood.
And that U.S. government lapdog, Leon,
If you do happen to encounter him, put him out of commission. We can't let him interfere with our plans.
He has no idea what's going on. He's nothing we need to worry about.
He's a survivor of Raccoon City. We can do without the extra distraction. Take him out.
Chapter 3, then, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting into the thick of it now, and we are back in the castle, and it begins straight into the action where Leon properly meets with Ada. That famous scene with the glasses and and the kind of fisty CQC style encounter was probably the best way to describe it. I think this was a natural point to pick up separate ways in the castle. I think it was a good decision to go from there, and you start off in the garden area. I didn't kill the merchant, but the merchant was killed in this point. I've never done that before in my life. He got hit by a bloody throwing thing, knife or something like that, and that poor old merchant was dead. And that's never happened to me. And the fact that then you cannot actually go to the merchant afterwards, which makes perfect sense, of course. But I thought that was a really nice touch that, you know, in theory, he's just a game mechanic there just to provide help. But the fact that if he is killed at that point and you can't go back to it, I thought that was, a nice little added jot of realism.
Controller woes were so big they were killing NPCs.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I thought he was going to blame the controller for it again. Then.
No, all good. Again, I'm not a fan of the garden part in the original game. I find it a little bit annoying with the dogs and whatnot. But this is another good little puzzle area.
Well, you can skip it on Nick mode, can't you?
You can. I know. I loved it. I know you can. But I've done it on normal mode and didn't like it. So you can skip the vast majority of it in easy mode. So I wasn't thrilled about going back into the area, but the objective, isn't it, to go to the towers?
You just have to do a loop of the garden before the red Los Illuminados turns up.
So I thought you had to go to the tower bits, or am I getting them mixed up?
No, I don't think there's no items to grab. I don't think you just have to basically do a loop, and then I think the gate gets unlocked, and then you can leave. There's no items as such to pick up.
No unlockable items.
No, isn't there? Okay. I think I ended up just exploring the whole area anyways because of the red Zelot person. There we go. Any problems here?
Yeah, I experienced my first death with a attack. I am sure, and I'm stating this here and now, played these games a lot. So this is not... I know what the answer's going to be, but the spider-like parasite, you know, the one that can actually detach and run around the floor like a spider, when it's still connected to a cultist, it did an acid spit I've never seen before and killed me. And I have never known they can acid spit.
Oh, I blame the PS2 controller.
Maybe so, absolutely. But no, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that attack in all my years of playing every version of RE4. I don't know what it was, whether I usually keep my distance enough and it never factors in, whereas the hedge maze is quite tight. Weird, yeah, because I don't always heal straight away. I mean, I'm terrible for sort of running around with half health or quarter health, because I'm not terrible at these games, so I can usually cut it fine and, you know, save the heals till I need a big one, if you like. And this acid spit just killed me at like a quarter health. I was literally flabbergasted.
I've never seen that either, to be fair, Sean.
No.
In all seriousness, so I'm joking about the control thing. Like, yeah, they usually just stay attached and they like flail around and the legs of the thing flails around until it detaches. So yeah,
I've got an image of like the classic RE1 and 2 zombies with acid vomit. That's what's in my mind at the moment. That kind of.
It was just like a little globule projectile thing.
Really?
It just hit me and killed me. My first death. And Separate Ways is brutal with no checkpoints as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saving at every typewriter, which is not my usual approach with this game. I always try to do a chapter at a time, but as you say, it was a tricky one, so I was saving every typewriter I encountered, including the one when you get back into the Leon and Ada room, because that's your first typewriter in there. And after, yeah. I think the gardens, a decent challenge for everyone, so I was definitely saving. George, any issues?
No, not really. Just I remember thinking how the maze in The Shining and how we love our outside. We've wanted more outside areas, and it could have. I don't want to say the missed opportunity, but it did feel a bit generic and kind of uniform, the maze, compared to perhaps what we could have got. But no trouble, going through that section particularly.
No, that's good. Rob?
No, nothing. I didn't get any acid spit or anything too unusual. It can be a pretty tight thing. Sometimes depending on where the enemies are, you walk around a corner, and I did get a hit randomly a few times. I remember there's a bangle up on the statue that I went and grabbed it. I got hit a couple of times by being stupid and not actually taking out enemies before I went and got it, which was a silly idea, but no, generally okay.
Now, once you exit the area, you end up in the dining table area of the game. And if anyone did this first time, I doff my hat, because I found this to be painfully difficult, because I was doing it wrong, naturally. But this whole point, when you can go to the dining room area, you can, take out some of the Ganados without any problems, pick up your, couple of supplies. Then tactically, I then went right at the end and went into the other bit. I think there's another merchant there. I can't remember. I think there's a couple of areas you can get some more ammo before you go into the caged bit. And the game wants to punish you severely by being in the cage that falls over your head or whatnot. You've got Ganados round the edge, and then they chuck a bloody Garrador in there with you. And that is brutal. I was losing the will to live. I at least half a dozen deaths because I was trying to take on the Garrador, and herein lies my problem. I shouldn't have done this. It was only afterwards, after I eventually killed it through sheer luck and determination, that I then go, all right, how do I get out of here? Thinking that when the Garrador died, thing would go up, and I killed all the Ganado around the edges. The cage didn't go up, and then I realised, oh, I should have just smashed the lock and got out. So frustrating, but yeah, that was painful. It's still, I think, even if you did get out, it's so narrow, it's so small that you're risking getting huge hits from that Garrador. Anyway,
I got stun locked and had my second death here.
Yeah,
it is brutal, and it really highlighted Ada's, higher, whatever you want to call it, the fact that she takes more damage. She just got eviscerated.
I will say, by the time my 6th attempt at this Garrador, I was getting quite good at it, in terms of being able to trigger him to start walking slowly because he can't hear you. I was able to, kind of like sneak behind him and really target the Plaga on the back. And I thought I was doing quite a good job. But yeah, 2 hits, 3 hits, you're absolutely dead. So you really had to cover your bases, have enough health, and then get out. But I was quite pleased with myself that I did actually manage to kill it, and then work out that I didn't need to kill it, or at least, to get out of the cage. But it was tough. Batman, what about you, my friend? Any problems with this bit?
I got quite lucky, really. I just used the TMP to blast the lock off the gate, and fortunately managed to get out before the Garrador could get near me. So I just sort of retreated back into the dining area and took them out one by one. And I used the Garrador was, I don't know why he didn't follow me out the cage. He was still just running around inside the cage. So I was lucky in that respect, and I took him out with the sniper rifle. I think it only took 2 shots to take him down. So yeah, I was lucky and managed to get through it in one piece.
Sounds a lot easier than my method. George?
Similar to Batman, really. You need strategy with this, get the lock off quick and escape. And I tend to I do a lot of this with the main game, kind of run into a corner so I know no one can get me from behind.
Okay.
And then, everything's straight in front of me. And again, I use the TMP a lot in this game. I think perhaps because my aiming isn't so good, but particularly with the Garrador.
Yeah, so if you can aim the TMP on the Plaga.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
You can get quite a lot of hits on it before it goes, whatever, moaning around. So yeah, that's quite, Rob, did you have a death here, did you say?
Yeah, I died here as well because I foolishly thought I could try and fight it without smashing the lock quickly, and then died, and then realized, I could just get out of here. It would be a lot easier. So eventually I came to the same conclusion that everyone else either knew or eventually got to, but I just didn't take as long as you to realize it. We'll just blame the controller, right? I'm going to stop running that gag into the ground now. But yeah, it was just one of those things, just silly.
That's pretty much the end of the chapter, though, isn't it? Once you've taken out the Garrador, you can hear Leon battling in the other room. That's the
art gallery.
Yeah, the gallery. Yeah, you can hear him in the other room, and there's no way you could go down there. They say, something like that. And that ends chapter 3.
You get out to the Lewis where he gets killed. Spoilers.
Yes. Yeah. Spoilers.
Quite a jolly mess he's made, that Leon, but all for the better. Sadler's people have fallen into a panic. Their destruction is only a matter of time now.
Once he gets Ashley back, his job will be finished. He'll no longer be a factor.
No, I'm leaving Leon to Krauser. Hurry up and retrieve the sample.
Chapter 4, then. Now, this is where I think Separate Rays really starts to come into its own, just because we get the new area. So this is the island. I've put in my notes, island/docks. And what was quite good here from a lore point of view, this, I believe, John, I think you've mentioned before that arguably this is the evidence of how Sadler's plan was going to work. Because we know that his initial plan was to send Ashley back infected to the United States, and then presumably load up his battleships and then send them over to start his takeover of the United States.
Yeah, it's a bit daft, isn't it? I'm sure that one rickety old battleship will fare very well against the might of the US military. But, it was nice to have an original level. I died a few times on this because if you miss the keycard for the gun and you try and progress without it, it's just automatic death. I don't think there's anything you can do about it. I couldn't remember how to get the keycard, so I kept hook-shotting right onto the top platform. And no matter how much health I had, it would just fire the gun and kill me instantly. So I think that was the game telling me that, you can't progress that point without getting the key card first. So I think I died 3 or 4 times on this section.
Is that with the boats?
The boat, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll get to there in a sec, yeah.
Can I just start by saying Richard Wow gets possibly the best line in the entire series. Quite a jolly mess he's made, that Leon. Which, yeah, thank you, Richard.
I found the opening, I think I died at least 4 times. The opening bits where you kind of start down these kind of orange tunnels, which kind of lead in. I think I found it quite, not challenging per se, but there's a way of doing it that eventually worked out to be my method in terms of running and then getting to that first room. You're in a very small kind of like storage room. And then I was hook-shotting up to the top where one of the barrels is always a grenade. And then I just waited there. I mean, this was a lot of trial and error because a lot of the times I was being stun locked in this room and this corner area. You wait up there long enough, and eventually BDSM Ganado turns up. The big one with all the sex gear on, whatever it's called. And you can wait there, and he starts then doing the tango. Because I was getting one of the famous memes where he was just literally spinning on the spot because he didn't know what I was doing. He was kind of wandering in, kind of looking up at me, and then all the Ganado, there must have been about 5 of them, all waiting there, and they didn't know what was going on, and they were just spinning on the spot. I think I've seen that meme before, not meme, but like a GIF of that happening. And you can take all of them out with that one grenade, and it's very satisfying. But that took at least, I say, 4 or 5 attempts before I got to that point, just to get to the... I remember doing it the first time, I was like, yes, got to the next area, that quite big open area where you've got that shooter, and then you hook shot up to the pipes, and I'd already clocked earlier in the level the cat treasure that I wanted to get back. So I took out the shooter, I'd killed all the Ganados, and I was like, yes, excellent. And I ran through the tube, and I was like, here I go. And then another BDSM Ganado turned up and absolutely clobbered me to death. And I was furious because he hides in that little tube bit. And I was furious because it had taken me so long to properly clock this area right at the beginning. And I felt I wasn't really progressing anywhere because it was taking too long. And then to be killed straight away after finally doing it, I was furious. But at the same time went, yeah, good one, Capcom. I appreciate that bit. Then the next go I did it, and I was quite happy about that. But even then, when you jump down into the area where the cat treasure is, there's another little fucker there with a sword or whatever it is, and he nearly killed me. It was bordering on controller through the screen, because I was like, this is so annoying, because it's not that difficult. I was just making a pig's ear of it. But we got there eventually. I assume no one else had any problems in these areas.
Thinking about it, I actually had another death here because I was trying to find the route to get to the treasure item that you can see through the wreckage. And there's a load of pointless hookshot areas that sort of throw you off, but you find it eventually. And some of those areas are quite new to the Separate Ways campaign. Little areas that Leon didn't get to go through because this is the service tunnel that he rides the bulldozer through.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. So the fact that you're on foot in this section, going through little side rooms and stuff, is all original content for Ada.
Well, okay, now we're at the main bulk of Chapter 4 with the boat, the Navy boat, that has almost an infinite supply of cannons that can kind of seemingly pop out of the boat whenever needed. Let me see. I've put here, this bit is quite tricky with, as we've already alluded to, Ada not being as strong in terms of being able to take weapons. It's 1, 2 at best shots. Most of the time it's a one-hit KO, really, if you get properly lampooned by any of the shots from the ship. And Yeah, I've said 2 shots from a minigun will absolutely kill you. So you got to get those 2 keys to be able to access areas, and then go on the. It was like a wheel lift, isn't it? That kind of goes up and around onto the area. How did everyone get on here?
So yeah, died.
Died.
I think the game fucks you over, to be honest, because the turrets rise, but you're also given your first group of Ganado come running at you, so you think you need to dispatch them. But in doing so means you take the first flurry of fire from a turret.
Yeah.
So I died instantly and completely changed my strategy. It was weird because this is really like this piece of content here, the battleship and the turrets and the machine guns and everything like that, is the first step into what became the series for the next few years, with gun-toting baddies and having to use cover and things like that. And of course, there's a mechanic in this game. So you have to sort of very cleverly position yourself behind objects and things. But I had an absolute blast. I won't lie. I really got into the music because I think the music for this section's great. And it just feels like Ada's a one-woman Terminator going through this dock, just blowing everything up. And, I dug it. For a piece of original content, it's nonsense. But I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was tricky because I think that you've got to be quite accurate with the turret when you get on board with them, because you can still be hit. Some of them I found quite. This is, I think, more of a graphical issue. They weren't as obvious as they could be. It's kind of like grey, browny colour that kind of blended in to the background, and I wasn't 100% sure at times where they were. It wasn't as obvious as perhaps, which is fine.
No, and what's interesting as well is that this area, the sort of battleship, big boat, began the obsession that Capcom had for the next several games to just set entire sections of an RE game on a very grey, boring boat. It was very much a trope for them after this. Strange section, but I am chuffed that Separate Ways did get its own piece of original content to help it stand out a little bit.
Yeah, when you get for the second turret, I found this bit really tense, and everyone can have a go at how they came across it, because this is where the countdown timer kicks off. And at this point, I didn't actually know where I needed to go, and I was like, shit, like that. And I assumed back onto the boat and onto the blooming wheel, but I wasn't sure, so I went back. Before I went there, I went back up where you came in, assuming that was where, almost the way out, and I was like, no, that's not the way. And I don't know if this was the fault of the game, but when I eventually got back onto the boat, I was so close on the timer getting to that door as everything was falling down. It was less than 10 seconds to go when I made it, and I don't think I've ever had a timer so tense on a Resident Evil game before. Maybe an Outbreak we got close, but this was really close just because I made a mistake running. I think it doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room if you don't know where you're going. Anyone else find it? No problems with that bit? Batman?
I couldn't remember this bit at all. I just thought you had to go back out where you came back in.
Yeah.
So I wasted half the time of doing that, and the exit was blocked by fire. And then I remembered there was a locked gate on the ship, because obviously you see it on your way to get in the second key card for the gun. So luckily I managed to get back there. I think I had about 40 seconds left when I got through it. So again, I was quite lucky, but I did die. I think I died about 4 or 5 times on this particular section.
It is tough with the turret.
I think it's just that lack of unfamiliarity. I mean, unlike yourself, the rest of us, I think, have played Separate Ways numerous times, so we've got that muscle memory throughout all the levels, because they're just rehashes of what you do in the main game. But this one obviously stands out because it's brand new. So yeah, this was the only time I really got stuck, because I just couldn't remember where you needed to go and where the key cards for the guns were. But again, it's nice to, for Ada to have a level that's completely original to her.
But for me, it was a case of I remember the guns, but I for some reason had completely forgotten about the boat timer thing. So it was kind of funny as well that I had just kind of had certain blanks about what the content of it was, other than just genuinely remembering that there was an original section, and there's tunnels and then the ship, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, the ship. And then it's there's turrets everywhere. I remember this now. They're a pain in the ass. But then there's time section. Oh yeah, crap. Just trying to compound the tension on top of it.
I think it worked. I think it was good. George, how did you find this part of the game?
Yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy it. I died multiple times, and yeah, it all was very kind of sort of James Bondy and yeah, it just felt like I was in a completely different universe than the one I kind of really wanted to be in, and yeah, not much more I can add than what hasn't already been said, but I don't know if it was my first death, but certainly the first area where I was dying multiple times. And for me, I think particularly emphasised how much of a James Bondy type of universe we kind of suddenly found ourselves in, and it was all a bit over the top, and yeah, it wasn't for me, I'm afraid.
Just as a general point, I mean, a lot of the times the kind of add-on bit, so something like the fourth survivor in Resident Evil 2, for example. Yes, it's canonical, but it's not the main game, so I give it a lot of leeway in terms of it's not how I like to play it, but it's fine for what it is. This was the first kind of extra that was very substantive, I think is the best way of describing it, compared to anything else that we've ever had before. And a bit like the remake, it felt quite natural to the base game, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I know what you're saying, George. It is very James Bond, in fact, the kind of like naval setting and things like that. I get that. But I don't think it felt out of place compared to the main game. And I would go even so far as saying that even if it did, even if Resident Evil 4 was basically, what 3.5 was, I do give it a little bit more leeway because it's not supposed to be, the core game. It is supposed to be a little bit of fun, a little bit of extra, even if this one was significantly lengthier than, say, like the fourth survivor before it.
Do you also feel that what it was meant to do, though, was kind of fill in the background, not just the lore, but kind of, it's meant to be acting almost like that elusive person behind the scenes, Ada, and we were just hopeful for finding out, particularly in terms of, say, her inner turmoil, or, in terms of suddenly, coming across Leon again, and particularly in regard to how things were left, that context at the end of Resident Evil 2. I was just hoping, in those reports that we got from her, and particularly at this stage of the proceedings, I was really hoping to get some kind of her inner thoughts, like I said, the turmoil, the emotional turmoil that she might be going through, but it all just felt quite light and didn't really delve deep. She talks about maneuvering chess pieces on a board, and it's all so cliche, but if you actually kind of delve a bit deeper beneath the surface, there's nothing really substantial there in terms of what we don't really find out truly what she was feeling.
GT, it's a bit different than, I know what you mean, it's a bit different than, say, the epilogue in Resident Evil 3 that has Ada, where you kind of get a hint of her background, as opposed to this, which is she's still very cagey and talks kind of in vagaries and riddles and keeps things close to her chest, whereas you get a little bit of a hint of an actual person in that epilogue, for example. And yeah, I do remember thinking the same thing when I originally played this. Was like, oh, I was expecting a little bit more depth in regards to what it was. But then I guess the contrary part is that you look at the scenes where Ada was, even in the original Resident Evil 4 release, earlier in the year, that same year of release, and she was vague with Leon in the cutscene. So I'm guessing it's tonally consistent to at least the main game. But yeah, you're definitely not going to get a heck of a lot more. You get a little bit, but not a lot.
Before we move to Chapter 5, I did get another death because I totally forgot, of course, that we get another cutscene where, right at the end of Chapter 4, where Ada has to save Leon from Krauser. So I'm afraid my Leon had his neck stabbed.
It's the whole point of the mission.
I know it was. I know it is like save Leon from assassination, but I spent so long doing the island, the beginning bit, to get to the docks. I completely forgotten the purpose of what we were up to and where it was going to lead to.
At least it was you forgetting the QT and not the buttons again, though.
It was, yeah, it's a purely a QT error, but yeah.
It's also worth saying before you get to the Krauser bit, after the battleship sequence, Ada has to run through an entirely new section also created for Separate Ways, which is more upper sort of gantries and things from the bulldozer sequence. That entire area is all original.
Yeah, that basically connects to the upper platform where we talk to Krauser and all that sort of stuff in the main game. It's quite well done, I think. It feels consistent.
Yeah, it is very well done. I think Jim Ward's absence, he's the voice actor for Krauser, is very apparent in this, and we'll hit this definitely with Chapter 5, but I do think it's a shame he wasn't either ever approached or available, because the dynamic of him, Wesker, and Ada would have been a topic that would have been very ripe for Separate Ways to explore, and we only get like a brief fragment of it in Ada's report, which is a shame, because I think that's an area where story-wise Separate Ways really could have pushed it. And of course the remake of Separate Ways doesn't even knock on that door at all, does it?
Because Krauser's a very different person. Yeah,
there's no sort of three-way power dynamic in the remake, and I think that's sorely missed. And again, kind of why I like the original.
I like the fact that you can hear the knife battle going on as you're into the room.
Yeah, it's cool.
I was like, what's that? And I was like, Oh yeah. And then I was kind of sit back enjoying it, and then dead. I was like, oh no, didn't pick up my controller quick enough.
That was another gasp moment in the trailer, actually, because they showed that in the trailer, Ada running into the knife battle for the PS2 release.
Report. Time is almost up.
Krauser's dead.
Really? Leon doesn't die easily. That's fine. We can use him to clean up Sadler for us. We'll let them fight it out. Neither one of them will manage to come out unharmed.
Easier said than done.
Either way,
It's your job to clean up what's left of them when the fight is over. Don't forget who is running
the show. Whatever happens, we can't let either of them live to see tomorrow.
Our goal is to retrieve the sample. Take out anything that might interfere with our plans.
Chapter 5, then, ladies and gentlemen, it's the final chapter. You've made it to the end, and
For Ada to grab the sample.
yep, for Ada to grab the sample, the main key point, and you are there for the aftermath. We are there mourning the loss of everyone's favourite helicopter pilot, not called Kevin, is Mike. You can see the carnage inflicted, the handiwork, I think. This part of the game, I remember being, when we did the original playthrough, at this point in the game, I am exhausted from the island. Because you feel you're close to the end by the time you get here. You've had Mike, you've had a little bit of help. He's kicked some ass, and you're like, yeah, this is good, it's good. And then you've got a whole other section to do. And I'm tapping out at this point in the main game. But here, because it's the end section for Ada, but it's never been quite as intense as this. And I think this is an appropriate way of being able to have this part of the game and not feel a little too overwhelming. I think it's still challenging. That whole section where you go into, I've called it a kind of like a staging demo room. I don't know what it is, but when you get to open up the double doors, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and that kind of bit with where you've got to pull the two levers to get out. That whole bit is always a challenging part for me, and I think Separate Ways probably did it a little bit better than the main game. But before we get to that, you've got to go and take out the big turret, haven't you? That's got the big minigun on it. And
Yeah, you end up replaying through that whole war zone area that Mike's strewn to bits with missiles and.
Yeah, I think it makes an interesting area, and you almost have like a mini cabin siege in the end, don't you? It feels like that when you go underneath a turret. I don't know if this is actually what you're supposed to do, but I kind of hold myself up in there and then just waited for all of them to kind of come in and try and take them down that way. I used up all my ammo in that battle, so it probably wasn't the best strategy, but I felt I was at least protected from outside elements there. Was that the correct strategy?
Which bit are you talking about here, Nick? Where you've got to activate the two switches to open the door?
No, sorry, that was me. I jumped ahead. This is before you get to that bit. You've got to go underneath the big gun that comes up.
There is a building that you have to just defeat a load of enemies that drew the gap in the floor. There's no turret on top of it, I don't think.
No turret anymore can blown up, but yeah, it's that building where there's a barrel. The guy drops the barrel and it's all flaming, and you.
Yes, yeah. It's where the turret was or something. Yeah. I ended up just kind of being in there and then almost kind of having the cabin siege section in there. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do.
You have to, because you can't leave until you've dispatched a certain amount of enemies from there.
Right.
By this point, I had something like 40 bowgun rounds, so I was just using them with abandon.
I had not yet bought the bowgun.
Nicholas!
No. I was quite reserved.
Terrible, Nick.
No, there's logic. We'll get to it. I had not yet bought it. There's not a lot of space.
But at this point, you bought the TMP, hadn't you?
Yes. So yeah.
Okay, right. I'm just writing that down. Thank you.
TMP is my friend.
Bowgun is your friend.
I was collecting the bowgun ammo, but I had not bought it. I had not bought it because I wasn't sure if I A, needed it, or B, something better would come along.
But the TMP, so certain are you?
It got me through it. No, yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier. I didn't buy the bowgun.
Nicholas. It's Ada's signature weapon.
I know. I didn't have a lot of space in the attaché case.
Okay.
It takes up a lot of space.
It does, but...
You will see my logic soon. That there was some... Anyway.
Nick mode logic strikes again, of course.
What about anyone else? So if that strategy is the correct strategy, which helps me. John, how did you get on, my friend?
What, in the room where you get trapped?
Yeah, trap, and then you can lead us into the two pull lever room.
Yeah, I must admit the TMP's my default weapon for RE4. It always has been. I just mowed them all down. I didn't use the bow gun either. I never bought it.
See, Sean.
I'm shocked. I never bother with the TMP ever.
I must admit, I don't like not having the stock. I think it's better with the stock. I just think the TMP makes things so much simpler. Knock enemies down easily. With the red dot sight, you can target smaller. Like, it's really good in the final Saddler boss fight. I know we're not there yet, but you can TMP him from a distance right in his face. It's dead easy.
And also, I find it's the most effective. You know, when the Ganado bursts out of the purse, I find the TMP a billion times more effective than shotgunning it.
Yeah. But for this particular situation where you're in a confined space and you're surrounded by them, it's so easy to just stun lock them with the TMP and then, move in and do Ada's flying kick on them all. But once I got through that and you enter the, I don't know what you'd call it, the quarry area where you've got to open the gate, there was hardly any enemies in there. Obviously, that section's really tough when you play as Leon. There's no automated cannons there. I know you trigger 2 of the Gatling gun Ganados, but they appear one at a time and they're quite easily to take down in isolation. So I didn't really have any issues with this area. I found it quite easier than I was expecting, put it that way.
Same. By this point, if you've got the rifle, you can take out those minigun Ganados in like 4 shots or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can easily get stun locked if you get hit by the Gatling gun. It can be game over very quickly.
Just stay back from them quite a bit. You've got the gate in the distance. If you've got the rifle, it's a lot easier. And then even if you haven't, just trying to keep on top of them before they start firing is getting a shot in, stuns them, and then they can't get it. Pretty easy by that point.
I found it useful to go underneath them because obviously they always start off on the higher levels.
Yeah, by the switches, yeah.
I always found I could kind of like get a good couple of shots in as you run back, and then if they weren't going down as quickly as I'd like, I could kind of like hide almost underneath and wait for them to kind of come down, or go the other side and take pop shots from a long direction. That seemed to work quite well. But no, likewise, it's not my favourite area in the G, but I found this a lot more manageable. George, you're a TMP heralder as well, so was that your strategy here?
Yeah, like Batman, I think it's my weapon of choice throughout the game. Although, interestingly, I always, in terms of trying to save as much money as possible to power up my weapons, I never spend it on the stock.
Well, you can't in this. In the main game you can, but in separate ways you can't.
Yeah, okay. No, just interested to hear that it makes quite a difference, what Batman was saying. But no, I'm sorry. I tried to find positives to say because I just found towards the end, particularly with this section, quite uninspiring. But no, nothing really I think I can add.
That then, you enter into the facility, and I had a big concern that we're going to come across regenerators, but we don't encounter one, or I didn't. I don't know about anyone else. No regenerators at all in my playthrough.
No, you don't in separate ways.
You don't know, and I was surprised because in the prison bit you do get some, don't you? In the OG game.
Yeah, in that final section, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, oh god, I can't be dealing with them. I don't have the right scope for it, and I was like, no, but it didn't. Now, geography, folks. Once you kind of go up that area, you can enter in some of the prison cells, pick up some things, and then you're basically at the Krauser fight then, and you have this really weird moment when you kind of go up into the section, and then you look out the window, and then you hook shot out of the window, and then you're at the Krauser fight. Does that work geographically?
Sorry, Nick, you seen that by me again?
So when you go down the prison tunnel, don't you?
Yeah.
And then you go through the next door.
Yeah.
And then that triggers the beginning of the Krauser fight.
Yeah.
And you kind of hook shot your way out, don't you?
It's just on the roofs of the big fighting location that Leon goes through. It's not.
Yeah, so Leon's battling below while the Krauser Ada fight's happening.
On the top, yeah. It's not through a window. That's why I'm confused. You said through a window. I was like, no, she just comes.
It's not through a window.
She just comes out the same door that Leon comes out of from the cells, and then she comes out into the area, and then Krauser attacks. He throws a beam at her, and she ziplines up to the top of the roofs. It's just up on top of the same area right beside you. Yeah. The geography makes sense.
It does it. That was my question. I wasn't sure. I said the transition seemed a little janky.
To clarify, it's an original area for Ada.
Yeah.
You know, as in it's been designed 4 separate ways, but geographically it's just above where Leon is doing his final Ganado battle.
Right.
The first one that he's on, he's literally standing on top of the roof from where you just came out where the cells are, I think, because he throws it from behind Ada, and she darts sideways or something like that, I think. So it's the one either to her right or above, but then, yeah, she just ziplines up on the roof, and it's just on top of there. Yeah, no, makes sense.
It does. Okay, that's fine. I wasn't 100% sure. I think Remake 4 Island was designed better. I think we mentioned this in our review. The way the facility kind of builds up, it seemed a little bit higgledy-piggledy in the original. and just kind of like areas tacked on, whereas it felt a little bit more organic in the remake.
In the fight, you can actually see some of the rooms that Leon goes through just below you to the right, as I recall, on the rooftop.
Can you?
So, yeah, you can see, like the first area, you can see some shelving and bits and pieces, as I recall. So it is there. It's just, yeah, it's a bit not as obvious as it probably first seems.
Let's stick with you then, Rob. How'd you get on with Krauser fight?
It's alright. I find this a bit silly just because the spaces are so small that you just end up doing a lot of dodge QTEs and so forth. Not that you don't in the normal fight anyway, but because it's such a confined space and it makes it really easy to get kicked. It's just a poor design choice because they've just decided to bring him back for a fight, which I think is kind of silly, and then didn't really think about a location that actually made sense for the fact that a lot of his moves are like big sweeping slides and stabby moves and stuff like that, which doesn't give you a lot of room. So yeah, you can get hit pretty easily without really trying, and so it's a bit tricky in that regard. But I got injured, almost killed, but didn't die, but just slightly annoying and a bit pointless, as if they just needed to fill a gap in the narrative with another fight.
Stars?
It was 7 knife swings and it was over, Nicholas. I never moved.
Now, you see, you told me last time, use your knife for Krauser, and I had a little STARS TyranT on my shoulder when I was playing this game, going, use the knife, Nick, use the knife.
Yep, 7 knife swings. I never moved.
No, I couldn't do it. I was being absolutely annihilated.
I counted them because I knew this was going to come up. He literally runs towards you. You do 1 knife swing. He throws a flashbang. You hook shot over to the other area, and then it's literally just like 3 and a 3, and it's over. 3 knife swings, and it's over. It's done. It's so easy.
I wish I knew that. I would have done that.
I'm just not that skilled. I'm not skilled.
You don't need to be skilled. You just literally just need to hit L1 or whatever your equivalent is and start swinging. Don't even aim, just swing.
Swing away.
I died about 3 or 4 times. It was a trial and error, but by the end of it, I was quite good at it, and I was. What it did do was really trained me with the dodging, because this is the first time you got a lot of constant dodges going on at the same time, I felt, and by this time I was getting more accustomed to the controller setup, and by the end he couldn't hit me at all, and I was very confident going into the end and just blasting him to smithereens. But it took a few attempts, but no, I did think of you, Sean, when I was playing this, but I still couldn't bring myself to use the knife. I just can't do it. So I'm afraid it was ammunition the old-fashioned way. But yeah, I was killed 3 or 4 times, I think, for this one. So
just to follow up, because I didn't say it before, your thing about the window happens after the fight, by the way. She goes ziplines through the window into the lab.
Oh, is that it? Okay, right. There is a weird transition somewhere, and I was like,
You get the merchant, and then you zipline through the window. So,
Batman, what was your strat for this boss fight?
Just the same as Sean, just use the knife. Simples.
The good news is that come Sadler, everything pays off dividends for me. So I'm going to sit with a smug smug look on my face for Sadler.
Ah, the audacity of youth.
So you kill Krauser. And we mentioned it earlier on, it is weird that he doesn't say a word. Considering if you've just played separate ways in the beginning and how, he's, bitch in the red dress, or, and all the build-up of the FMVs, and come the big climactic battle, he just gives a grunt or something like that, and then you're fighting him. It's odd.
That's a large thing you have there. But I don't like it when men play rough.
Yes, so you do that, then you enter into the final lab bit, and you come across Sadler. Before this, I had all my treasure that I needed, and sold, and then stocked up on everything I needed to, including at this point the bow gun. And I thought, I'm going to save the bow gun for Sadler. And honestly, this is exactly what I did. I would 100% recommend this strategy. So you have the kind of janky cutscene with Sadler, he kind of turns around. And you start on the balcony area, don't you? And I just equipped the bow gun and went bang, 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 and that was it. Honestly, it took less than 30 seconds. I moved barely. I think he got close to me once.
Bow gun?
Bow gun.
Wow. Were you aiming for his head?
Well, yeah, but it just locked in place. He never moved. So I got the head and went bang, 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 like
God, that's amazing.
7, 8 times, and then eventually he got close enough to me to hit me. I then shuffled back. I then moved back to the end of the balcony where I was standing. So he was then slowly walking towards me again. Aimed it up. Bang, 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 bang. Dead.
So here we go. Here's my shame, Nicholas.
Yep.
I died 4 times to this boss
See?
because I was using the bowgun and going for body shots, and all it does is stun him. It seem to do any kind of real damage. I kept hitting him, and he was staggering, and I was thinking, oh, I'm doing well here. But then I think I'd got up to something like the 15th bowgun shot. I'm thinking, I don't think he's taking any damage here. This is ridiculous. And then did you get one hit KO'd at any point where he just grabs you by the head, slams you down into the ground, and kills you instantly?
No, managed to avoid any hit.
And I wash, rinse, repeat for the next couple of attempts. And then it was only when I changed my strategy to start hitting his head did he fall very quickly. So I just sort of look and just think I'd fucked it up myself. But you've humbled me there, Nicholas.
Honestly, it reminded me of the strategy you can do with Alexia in Code Veronica. If you save enough of the explosive darts, Alexia's a piece of piss, isn't it? The final battle, it only takes about 8 bowgun out at explosive darts.
Yeah, or Magnum. Yeah.
Or done. Honestly, I swear this was less than 30 seconds to kill him, and I felt a little bit disappointed. I have to be honest. But then I thought, no, hold on, I've done well. I've battled through the entire game, and I've got enough potatoes to buy the bowgun. This is for the end boss. Let's do it. I did it and walked out. So that was my crowning achievement. Batman, what was your strategy for the final boss?
TMP to the face from distance. Although I did die a few times because I couldn't remember exactly what to do to start with, because he kept following me around, and a bit like Sean, I kept hitting him and it wasn't really doing anything, and then he just endlessly played that little cutscene where he expels the bullets and fires them at you. But then I remembered to go for the head, and it's really easy when you use the red dot sight on the TMP, and then when he staggers and he opens his mouth, you just move in and stab him once with the knife, and he instantly dies. So once I remembered what to do, it was quite easy. It only took about a minute, as you say, but I did die several times before I worked out exactly what I needed to do.
It's a bit bodged together, but I appreciate it as a piece of original content because, again, I don't think this was anything that was, originally intended. So they kind of Frankenstein this boss fight together. But I do appreciate it. I think it's cool that Ada gets her own boss. From a story point of view, it's absolute nonsense, because I just think at this point Sadler would have just killed her, as opposed to, theatrically stringing her up for the next moment. But hey.
George?
For me, there was very little challenge, particularly for the type of battle that I was expecting it to be. I think I used the TMP, but unlike from a distance, if you manage to get the dodge mechanic down to a T, when the tentacle comes out, you can get him pretty close. And as long as you just aim for the head, you then get, triggered into the section where you then just stab him, into that kind of mutated eye type thing that comes out his mouth. So it was pretty straightforward. But, as long as you get the dodge mechanic right, then it's very straightforward.
It seems like, George, you've had a complete revelationary moment with this mod. You've been able to actually go through this game and be like, this is doddle now. Where previously it was kind of like, oh, I can't do this. And now it's like, this is fine.
I think, everybody knew what it opened up to me is that, look, I can put a whole, speech together about how I would prefer 3.5 and the whole kind of tone of that as compared to this, James Bond story, But in terms of, an actual, combat orientated game, it's wonderful. And some of the gothic areas that are very dark and very foreboding, I really enjoyed. Not so much, I think Separate Ways, particularly for me, kind of emphasized how much of a letdown this kind of Ada Leon reunion was, particularly in terms of the writing. And, it always comes back to me from the writing and how poor it really has been since the breakup of the Studio 4 guys, from the first 3 games that we had. I just don't think Capcom ever replaced that Studio 4 team of writers. And when they have brought kind of third party or sort of wonderful writers throughout. So, for example, Anthony Johnson, look what he did with the Dead Space series, and they brought him on. But I think, as he spoke, when we interviewed him, the skeleton of the story of the narrative was already there. So it's almost you feel that these writers had very little to work with. That most of the kind of the plot points, plot beats had already been laid down. And so just to have Ada and Leon's kind of dialogue, just almost exclusively just these little kind of sideswipe, cliched one-liners. Yeah, it kind of emphasized it to me. But no, you're right. It did that mod is definitely worth the while. If this game has, for me, been completely a barrier to it, this camera mode. So, but I did enjoy it for what it was. Just wish it wasn't a Resident Evil game.
Rob, talk us out your strategy for this boss, and then lead into the final little moment at the end in the docks.
Yeah, for me, I didn't think about much of the strategy in regards to the head. I did kind of aim for it because the eye thing kept coming out, and I just really focused on the QTEs, especially getting a chance to stab him in the eye, mouth eye, when you get the chance. I did actually use the TMP if I'd known that the bow gun. I didn't think I had that many darts left anyway, so I probably wouldn't have used them if I even had. And I used some of them on the platform afterwards, which was really just to stop people or run past them quickly. It's really the last hurrah of the game is that boss fight, because realistically, the last bit's just a timed gauntlet to get to the rocket launcher. It's like, how fast can you get there? So realistically, yeah, once you've gotten past that point, it's just a sprint to the finish. I very much agree with what you were saying before in regards to, I think it was you or maybe it was Sean, but in regards to like the fact that Ada shouldn't survive after this, like Sadler's tentacle arm comes out, and last time he just stabbed Lewis with it. Why wouldn't he do that with Ada? It would have made more sense for like some of his henchmen to come and pick her up, like knock her out and pick her up, and then he gets up afterwards, and then rather than him kind of like seemingly grabbing her with it, which is just weird. And yeah, straight into the end game.
That's it. That's the game. That's separate ways wrapped up, all done. Unless anyone had anything specific that actually happened on the end bit, I can't imagine anyone did. It was quite a straightforward process. I ran through most of it. You can avoid so much of the Ganados.
No, I just think it's neat how they've orchestrated that final set piece with being able to see the final boss fight
going on,
happen beneath you.
Yeah.
And I love the music. I think the music's really good for Separate Ways. I think the music for the battleship sequence, the music for this final section, I think is really good. It's a well-produced piece of content for something I genuinely don't think was planned. And yeah, for the record, this playthrough, in retrospect to the remake's version of Separate Ways, I will go on record and say I actually really prefer the OG version. Its streamlined nature. I think Separate Ways remake is really good for that game, but if you were to hold me at gunpoint, I think this is the better version of that story, because I don't think the add-ons that the remake did, like having Wesker more present and the infection subplot from Ada, adds so little that I think I just prefer Separate Ways to be a more streamlined, more smoother, more faster-paced affair than what the remake version is. Yeah, love this playthrough, Nick. Thank you.
Good, no, sorry, no, we've had good final thoughts from George and Sean there. Rob, any final thoughts?
I can only reiterate some of the things to what Sean said previously and what I just talked about earlier, which is the same thing. It's just like, I love the simplicity of this in a lot of ways, in that it ties essentially more vastly into the narrative of the main game, which was more simple and is more simple because of it. And it feels like the remake version has tried to make things more complex, but in doing so has kind of lost some of the charm of what that was. I mean, I'm not putting down what GT said, but a lot of this is like, oh, it's a very James Bondian kind of thing. It's like, that's kind of the fun of it, I think, in a way. Like, that's the kind of silliness and the camp factor and like the ridiculousness of this just like one woman army going through. You kind of lose that feeling a little bit in the remake version. And while I still very much agree also with Sean that I like it for what it is, it's very different. And if I was to pick one of the two, I'd rather play this version of it just because it's a little bit more light, breezier, and fun. And that's really what it comes down to. It's a great experience, it's a couple of hours long, which is pretty impressive in itself, as you alluded to as well, Nick. This would have been like the largest kind of like additional content we'd received in a game to that point. And it definitely felt like, regardless of whether its intent was early, partly realized during development and dropped, or fully decided upon and just for the PS2 version as part of that additive to sell units, it's well realized considering the circumstances of how the main game is. And to add another 2-hour piece of content on top of a 20-hour game originally, like, it's pretty impressive as well. So as a combination of like reused assets and original areas, so yeah, a real fun thing to revisit, just on 20 years later. And I don't think I've played it again for several years easily, so it was a nice revisit as well. Thanks.
Batman?
Yeah, I agree with what most people have said. It's it's a charming add-on to the original game. It helped the story a lot, but at the same time, I think I prefer the remake version just because of the expanded roles it gives to Lewis and such like. I mean, I appreciate I take Sean's points that Wesker shouldn't be on the island, he shouldn't be at the village, and the Ada infection subplot is completely pointless. I agree with that, but I just think the remake's got more bite, and maybe that's just my thing because I'm more into the narrative than a lot of people. But yeah, this version, it's fun, but it's just not quite different enough. A lot of the levels are just mirrored versions of what you do as Leon. I mean, it's just a bit too bare bones for me, but I definitely appreciate that it's there. And, it obviously helped cement RE4 as one of the best games in the series.
Yeah, I'm a bit like you there, Batman. But I would also say I think the remake Separate Ways and OG Separate Ways are very different animals. One's, as you say, one's 2 hours, 3 hours. Separate Ways, that can take you a good amount of time to do. That's got a huge amount of area, including that kind of new island and then the kind of like chasing boss around, and I very much enjoyed the remake Separate Ways, even though, as I've often said, they're not my type of Resident Evil game. But as I said earlier as well, I give a lot of leeway to the supporting parts of a story as opposed to the main game narrative. In regards to this one, I think it actually holds up very well. I think it's almost like a best of Resident Evil 4. It's kind of got a lot of all the good bits to do it. It's almost like, those like giant Toblerones you can get. The chocolate Toblerones. If Resident Evil 4 is the big giant one, you could eat all that if you want, but you'd be sick. If you played Resident Evil 4 in one go, beginning to end, I think you'd be sick. But Separate Ways is like 3 triangles of Toblerone, and you can eat 3 triangles of Toblerone and be very, very happy. And I was very, very happy playing Separate Ways for the first time in nearly 20 years. I was very happy with it. And for me, represents a manageable chunk of Resident Evil 4. A game that historically doesn't quite gel with me in terms of my personal liking of that style of Resident Evil game. For me, this Separate Ways is, that nice bit of chocolate. That nice bit of fun, it's demanding in places, it's fun all over, and it gives, as I say, it's that kind of best of the greatest hits of Resident Evil 4, and I appreciated it for what it was, and thoroughly enjoyed my playthrough, which I wasn't expecting to do. Even though I did die multiple times, I found it a really fun experience, so congratulations to Capcom there. I think if it was an apology for all GameCube owners, I don't know, apology accepted. That does finish our 20-year happy birthday look back on Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways. We hope everyone has enjoyed it and discovered some new things, because we certainly have from our playthrough.
The giant pharmaceutical corporation S maintains medical and drug facilities the world over. We know for certain that Wesker has been in contact with them following Umbrella's demise. There's no doubt we'll next hear from him there. The organization must remain vigilant. But Wesker's not stupid. He knows exactly what the organization is thinking. He and I still have time to continue our little game of cat and mouse before the next move is played. This mission may be over, but the battle is just beginning.
On that note, we finish and we turn our attentions to this podcast edition of Neptune's Biohazard Quiz.
The ultimate test of Resident Evil knowledge returns. 100 podcasts later.
Jesus Christ. What fucking question is that?
I'm getting a big fat 0 this week.
Yeah, I'm not going to get any of these.
I'm not going to say anything because I know if I do, you will just change the answer or something. Like, you don't even know what the answers are.
Can I just ask, have you had all of these questions independently verified?
And still things don't quite go to plan.
You only have to probably get it right.
Welcome to Neptune's Biohazard Quiz. Batman. STARS TyranT. George Trevor. Robbie the Pecker. Mr. Spencer. Neptune's Biohazard quiz.
So, welcome one and all. 5 new questions. Clear your desktops. You can open up Notepad. Let's see how well people will do today. So, question number 1. When returning to the village in separate ways, what item of clothing does a Ganado seemingly now possess? Question number 2. You can purchase the Chicago typewriter in separate ways for 300,000 pesetas. But how do you unlock this opportunity? What do you need to do to be able to purchase it for 300,000? Question number 3 comes in from Mish. In the original Resident Evil 2, in a singular playthrough, so that's A and B, what is the maximum number of times you can encounter Misty? That is brutal. How many times do you encounter Misty the zombie through an A and B playthrough? Question number 4 comes in from Jordan Osiris. It's a timeline question, a welcome return of the timeline question. On what date is the Dead Factory's manager's 30th birthday? That's quite tricky. So, on what date is the factory manager's 30th birthday? And finally, question number 5. In what year was Sherry Birkin appointed as a special agent? They're the 5 questions. Join us after this one. We'll run through those answers.
So I see you've managed to arrive at the village on time.
This was inferred through the analysis of a tissue sample we retrieved. The organization needs samples of the parasite. You must be talking about that vagrant Spaniard.
The sample.
Where's the sample?
And recovering the sample.
A sample for evidence.
Now that I have this sample...
Tracking him down and getting my hands on the sample shouldn't be difficult.
He's a sample of Raccoon City.
The sample.
Did you retrieve the sample?
The sample?
Follow us to retrieve the sample.
The sample?
Quite a jolly sample he's made, that Leon. Hurry up and retrieve the sample.
A sample.
Our goal is to retrieve the sample.
That's a large sample you have there. Don't worry, I'll take good care of it. Getting my hands on the sample was my initial objective, after all.
So, welcome back to Neptune's Biohazard quiz. Let's see how well everyone has done. Not sure. Everyone's been very silent. I don't know how it's gone down. Right, question number 1 was, when returning to the village, what item of clothing does a Ganado seemingly now possess? Batman, I think you gave the answer earlier.
Leon's jacket.
Damn you with my questions. George Trevor?
I mean, I had no idea, but Batman knew, but I wouldn't have known.
You didn't? No?
I mean, I know because he said it earlier, but I didn't. I didn't know until Batman had mentioned it.
What, just now the answer, or earlier in the podcast?
No, I on the podcast. So no, it's fair to say I wouldn't have known. So put me down as not knowing.
Okay, well, that's very honest of you, George. STARS TyranT?
The glasses or Leon's jacket? I'll say both in case you're gonna fuck me over.
Your bonus point for stars. Romby?
Leon's jacket, they've clearly showed the guy run off to the gate, and he's the one that's guarding the gate when you go to exit back towards the house. Yes. And if you check him, there's a comment. Even if you shoot him, there's a comment about this looks like Leon's jacket.
We didn't cover this in the episode, but I want to say this is one of the very best in-game Easter eggs that has ever been made for any game. I think it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, very good. Yes, points there, Batman, Romby, and Stars. Question number 2 is, you can purchase the Chicago typewriter in separate ways for 300,000, but how do you unlock the opportunity to do so? George, did you know? What did you have to do to get the opportunity to pay for it?
I'm a bit confused between this and the remake. Is this I've
original? Sorry,
you have to complete Assignment Ada. Once you complete Assignment Ada, it becomes available. Surely
in separate ways. Is that what you're going for? Complete Assignment Ada.
Yeah.
Okay, Batman.
I wasn't sure because it was available to purchase right at the start.
Was it?
So the only thing I can think of is you have to complete the main game on professional.
Okay.
Don't know.
It's good. Robbie?
I think you just have to finish separate ways once already, and it unlocks for the set of subsequent versions. I think.
Okay. That's what you're going with?
Yeah.
STARS TyranT?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, this. You have to complete separate ways, but you have to load a completed file. It's not unlocked for subsequent new games. So if you start from scratch, it will not be unlocked, even if you've unlocked it on another save file. If that makes any sense, you have to complete a run, and then it's essentially you have to New Game Plus, and it will be available in the merchant's menu.
Yes, correct. You have to complete Separate Ways at least once.
Yeah.
And Assignment Ada.
Well, I don't think you have to do Assignment Ada.
I'm not sure. I think you do.
I don't think you have to.
I don't think you have to either, because I haven't played Assignment Ada at all on the one I've got, and I unlocked it.
I think it's just Separate Ways, but it has to be a New Game Plus file. If you start a new game, even if you've done it before, it won't be available. It has to be a New Game Plus.
Okay. The reason why I thought it was Assignment Ada, I thought George might get the point for the Assignment Ada mention. Let me just check where I got this from.
Yeah, George gets the point because he gave the gave the answer that you gave. Like, isn't that how quizzes go?
Chicago typewriter.
Fuck me, you've really got to start verifying these answers before you...
They were! I checked it, and I checked it. Yeah, I checked. No, it is available to purchase from the merchant after completing the subgame at least once and also having completed the Assignment Ada subgame. And that says on GameFAQs as well.
Okay.
So I checked it twice.
Okay, I apologise.
It's only because you sounded so confident, Sean, that I then questioned my own sanity.
I'm looking up. The Chicago typewriter must be unlocked before it can be used anywhere in the game. In the GameCube version, it's available for 1,000,000 pesetas after beating the Assignment Ada minigame. In all other versions, beating Separate Ways will unlock this gun for the main game for the same price, or beating Assignment Ada will unlock it for Separate Ways, where it costs 300,000 pesetas.
Are you using the fucking Google AI answer, Nick?
No. This is Evil Resource and GameFAQs.
That was me looking on the fandom. He's right. In the fandom page, it also says that you have to beat Assignment Ada to unlock with Separate Ways.
So his GameCube controller's fucked us all over on this one, then.
Okay, if that's the case, then Nick, I apologise.
I blame your controller.
Let's have a look at the points. So I'm giving half a point to Stars Tyrant for saying you got a complete Assignment Ada. I'm giving half a point. Sorry, I'm completely Separate Ways. Half a point to Romby for that, and half a point to George Trevor for saying completing Assignment Ways. No points to the Batman. Question 3 was the question from Mish. In the original Resident Evil 2, in a singular playthrough of A and B, what is the maximum number of times you can encounter Misty? So people unaware, Misty is the female, the lone female zombie that you encounter. So this is just a numbers guess, really. Stars Tyrant, did you want to start?
I had no idea, so I only guessed 3.
3, okay. Romby?
I mean, between the A and B, I'm thinking maybe 7. I don't know.
7. George Trevor?
I'm saying twice.
Twice. Batman?
She's on the bus, she's in the back alleyway, and I'm sure she's round the back of the RPD, so if that's A and B scenarios, it's got to be 6, so I'm going to say 8.
Oh, John, just stick with your answer, mate. It's 6. It is 6 times. I thought I was about to go, John, how do you know it is 6 times? Back alley, bus, in the RPD as well. Back of the RPD, in the substation, and in one of the RPD corridors by the interview rooms.
It's funny because I did the same thing Batman did, which is I could remember at least those 3, and then when if it's A and B scenarios, it must be that, and there's probably one I'm forgetting, so I'm going for 7.
You were so, oh no, but yeah, 6. So John, nearly there, not quite. Unlucky, everyone, unlucky. Question number 4 was timeline question. On what date is the Dead Factory manager's 30th birthday? Romby, you can have a guess.
Oh, I have no idea. July 12th.
July the 12th. Yeah, okay. Starstone?
I had no idea. I just went for October 7th, a random date.
October the 7th. GT?
Sorry, I don't understand why I think I missed this question. I thought there was going to be a question about Sherry Birkin.
Yes, that's 5. This is 4.
I didn't hear 4. That was weird. Sorry.
On what date is the Dead Factory manager's 30th birthday?
Jeez, is this a veto question? I've got no idea.
It's a timeline question.
On what date? Oh, jeez. I don't know. August the 1st. I have no idea.
August the 1st. Batman?
I want to say May 20th, 1998.
Oh, no. Incorrect. April the 25th. April the 25th. I can't even give anyone in half points. No one got the right month. So April, that's a tough question, though. That was a tough question from Jordan. And finally, then, question number 5 was, in what year was Sherry Birkin appointed as a special agent? GT, you seem very eager on this one.
Not at all, no. I just was trying to work out where my brain was when you were asking question 4.
What year?
Oh God, I mean, I've no idea, but I'm just trying to work it out in terms of how old she was. So like mid 2007 ish, 2007.
Are you locking in 2007?
Yeah.
Yep.
Go on.
Okay. Batman?
2009, because it was after Wesker's death.
2009. Stars Tyrant?
Well, I'm closer than I thought I was going to be.
2009.
Yeah, 2009. Romby?
2009?
Is 2009? It is very good. That's a tough question. Well done. Points to Batman, Stars Tyrant, and Romby.
Well, yeah, I think that John says it links when Wesker died, Sherry's restrictions lifted, didn't they?
Yeah.
Wow.
She trained though. Isn't it 2 years training? So do I get half a point? Did she start training in 2007?
Maybe. Let's have a look at the final scores. And this, wow, we've got a tie for winning. It's Stars Tyrant and Romby, joint winners with 2.5 points. Congratulations. Well done. Second place is Batman with 2. And in last place is with half a point is George Trevor. Never mind. Well, they're the 5 questions. We hope everyone's enjoyed it. Join us next time where we'll have some more. Right, we are coming towards the end of our Happy Birthday Separate Ways podcast. We hope everyone has enjoyed it and found something new to cherish from what is an essential piece of storytelling, at least at the time, leading into Resident Evil 5. Coming up next, well, we're going to be doing a slightly different podcast. It is our T-Virus special. So something that a lot of us have been wanting to discuss further is the history and the application of everyone's favourite zombie virus, the Tyrant virus. Now, you might think, well, it's pretty self-explanatory, but there's a lot more lore detail about the T-Virus that kind of gets a bit overlapped. There's lots of different variants.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was getting very excited. Everybody wants to know what happens when you fuse the T and the G together, don't they?
do.
Everybody wants to know about that. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that.
We are, and also its practical uses that we see in the series. We touched upon that again in our Outbreak flashback podcast as well, and how it can be used with other, products like that. But also going back to earlier Resident Evil lore with the different strains that exist in the mansion that was created. There's all sorts of different viruses or strains that are created from different animals. So I think off the top of my head, there's different ones from the shark. The web spinner creates a different one, and there's all sorts of different things. Anyway, lots to go through, and it should make for quite an interesting special look at the Tyrant virus. So join us for that. But on that note, thank you everyone for listening. It is goodbye from me, Neptune.
Goodbye from me, Batman.
Goodbye from me, Stars Tyrant.
Goodbye from me, George Trevor.
Goodbye from me, Romby.